Chapter 109. Early in the morning on Friday, May 22nd, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was still watching a ghost animal video on a bullet screen website. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal believed that using the naked eye to determine the number of times a ghost animal twitched in a video was a very effective cultivation method. Not only could it train one's eyesight, it could also test one's mental concentration. The most insane ghost animal video on the internet could now twitch more than 60 times in a second, but grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could count them all without missing a beat. While Le Mourin was lost in his cultivation, his phone rang at an inopportune time. When he saw the caller ID, unknown area, he immediately knew that it had to be Little Black calling. "Hello, brother Little Black. Did you find anything?" Sure enough, when he picked up the phone, Little Black's voice came from the other end. "I've already investigated the details of this landscape manor." It had to be said that Little Black was a pretty amazing guy. While the lab was still in the process of being repaired, he was able to find the results just by relying on the basic equipment. This was Little Black's strength. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had no doubt that as long as Little Black had a calculator, he could tilt the entire Earth. But hearing Little Black's tireless explanation, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's eyebrows furrowed tighter and tighter until they gradually twisted into a knot. "You're saying, this landscape manor is actually just a subsidiary company? The real powerhouse behind it is MO Immortal Castle, the most reputable one-on-one education institution in the school circle." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had never thought that Landscape Manor would be related to MO Immortal Castle. But because of this, he felt that the severity of the situation was perhaps beyond his imagination. Because once the stone ghost mask was combined with a person, not only would it bestow formidable strength upon the successor, it would also have the special ability to bewitch people. Back then, Devil Emperor Gua Pai had relied on this bewitching power to create the enormous Gua Pai Empire. Once the stone ghost mask fell into the hands of this MO Immortal Castle, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that the other party was very likely to use the mask in combination with their educational resources to control the students. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was a little astonished. He never thought that behind all this was actually a huge conspiracy. The only good news at the moment was that the stone ghost mask hadn't fallen into the hands of those people yet, but from Little Black's report, it was clear that the other party had no intention of giving up on the mask. "What is the identity of the Lord of MO Immortal Castle?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression was very gloomy as he really felt a headache coming on. Xiao He was silent for a moment before replying, "That's the only thing I can't answer you right now. The other party also has an expert in information technology. It will take some time for me to infiltrate and investigate without leaving any traces." Hearing this, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Little Black's invasion investigation had always left no traces behind. This was to prevent others from tracing back and investigating the location of the laboratory. Moreover, if he were to alert the enemy, it would be disadvantageous to him. "How many more days will it take before you give me a result?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked. Xiao He gritted his teeth. 24 hours, at most 24 hours. "I will definitely find out and tell you." "Alright, then I'll have to trouble you, my brother He." After that, Little Black directly cut off the call with grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. In the laboratory, Little Black turned around and looked around. Although 50 to 60% of the infrastructure had been restored, Little Black was still a little flustered. Given Little Black's self-awareness, he would never leave any traces behind every time he invaded. So the question was, how on earth had that guy who had destroyed the laboratory last time found out about this place? Xiao He was puzzled by this. There was the melodious sound of a bell on campus. For students who were in an intense learning mood every week, Fridays were always the happiest time of the year. Thinking that it was a weekend tomorrow, everyone was more or less a little excited in their hearts. When Wang Ling returned to the classroom that morning, the class was already talking about the second mock college entrance exam. For grade 1 students who had yet to truly experience what it was like before the exam, and whose minds were constantly on edge, the college entrance exam was a big source of gossip and even more a topic of conversation after a meal. No one knew whether the results of 3 years of study would be tested at the last moment of the college entrance exam. Number 60 high school's golden core rate was on average in the city, but it was still unknown how many people would be able to reach the cutoff score. After the college entrance exam, students who had reached the cutoff score could choose a university according to the cutoff score, and receive a super panacea subsidized by the government based on their overall grades. Given the current cultivation education system, after the college entrance exam, every student would be given a 2-year-long seclusion to digest the power of the super panacea. A super panacea was a medicinal pill that could gather a large amount of spirit energy from heaven and earth for a short period of time, and was helpful for students at the late foundation establishment stage to break through to the golden core stage in a short period of time. Thus, they could continue to complete their studies in golden core universities in the future. Of course, this was actually a story for another time. The reason why Grade 1, Class 3 was talking about the college entrance exam this morning was because the results of the second mock college entrance exam had been announced across the city not long ago. And this time, clan leader Yu Heng from number 60 high school had actually made it into the top 100 of Peiyuan district's high schools. In an instant, the whole school was talking about it. Dopey seemed to have received some news, and started gossiping noisily in class early in the morning. It said that clan leader Yu's total score for the second mock college entrance exam is only 10 points behind senior Zhua, who graduated from number 60 high school back then. He almost broke senior Zhua's record. Only 10 points. Then if it was the real college entrance exam, he would definitely have a chance to break the record. The college entrance exam questions are generally easier than the second mock college entrance exam questions, right? Not necessarily. Super Chin shook his head. As far as I know, clan leader Yu's score for the written exam was very strong. Even if he had to take the college entrance exam again, I think he would still be able to do very well on the written exam questions. But his spirit sword score would be a little worse. When senior Zhuo graduated from school back then, his spirit sword score was almost full. But there's also a rumor that something went wrong with clan leader Yu's spirit sword during the exam. He didn't perform well, Feather Lin added. Hey, does anyone know who got first place in the second mock college entrance exam? Who else could it be? Lin Xiaozong, that rich second-generation kid who's rumored to be shouting, Father Wang is Sikong. Chapter 110. Teacher Pan showed up again after school on Friday. This gave Wang Ling a bad feeling. Then, Teacher Pan announced that she would be making home visits to several students this weekend. And Wang Ling was one of Teacher Pan's key targets for home visits. I hope that the students who receive the home visit notice won't be nervous. This is just a routine educational research activity. Standing on the dais, Teacher Pan smiled, then left with a stack of dictation books. As soon as he left, the class exploded. F***CK. Home visit. And they're all male students. Dopey patted Wang Ling on the shoulder. Brother, be careful this weekend, remember to wash your butt clean. Feather Lin, why should I wash my butt clean? Dopey sighed. Wash your butt clean. That way, after the home visit is over and you get hit, the mark will be obvious. At that time, you can take a photo and post it on Weibo to sue for domestic violence. Given the beautiful shape of Brother Wang Ling's butt and a few handprints, I think it won't be a problem for you to become an internet celebrity with this postmodern work. Wang Ling had already been mentally prepared for Teacher Pan's home visit. At first, he didn't know how to deal with it. But now, he felt that Teacher Pan's home visit might be an opportunity for Grandfather Wang. It would be a very natural meeting, and would be more reliable than any chance encounter that Wang Ling had deliberately planned. The most important thing was that it would be at home. The old man wouldn't have to wander around on his own, which would put Father and Mother Wang at ease. When Wang Ling came back in the evening, he was surprised to find that Mother Wang was the only one in the kitchen today for the first time. After all, Grandfather Wang had practically done all the cooking while he was at home, and Mother Wang could only wash the vegetables and play second fiddle. But this time, the old man hadn't done anything. It was very obvious that there was something unusual in the air in the Wang family's small villa today. Wang Ling looked at the time. It was already 6:30 in the evening. At this time, the old man's favorite large-scale and bitter mother-in-law and daughter-in-law struggle Magic Mary Sue TV series Two Women and a Man was playing. But today, the old man did not turn on the TV as early as usual and stay in front of the screen. When Wang Ling walked into the living room, he found the old man sitting calmly on the sofa, frowning slightly as he stared at something. Father Wang was sitting next to the old man. Seeing that Wang Ling had arrived, she directly told him what had happened in her heart. Wang Ling heard everything. This had started in the afternoon when the old man had nothing to do and had nothing to do. He had gone to Father Wang's study to look through old newspapers. Father Wang had the habit of collecting old newspapers and organizing them. The old man also had the habit of flipping through old newspapers about gourmet recipes. There were food columns in some newspapers, and whenever the old man encountered a creative recipe, he would personally copy it down and then combine it with his own ideas to create a new recipe. Although the old man had retired, according to the old man, even if he retired, he couldn't lose his passion for food. For example, the old man would send a new recipe to the restaurant where he used to work every half a month. It was just that when he had been flipping through the old newspapers today, there had been a small accident. A few days ago, Wang Ling had drawn a portrait of Teacher Pen using the sketching spell. Father Wang had put it away at that time, and as luck would have it, it had been stuck in a newspaper. In the end, the old man had accidentally flipped through it today. Thus, the old man had been staring at the portrait all afternoon, deep in thought. He hadn't even taken a sip of water. Ling Ling, do you think your grandfather's dementia has gotten worse, or has it gotten better? It feels like today was quite a shock, Father Wang muttered in his heart, feeling a little guilty. Wang Ling, the old man's dementia was also a thorny problem for Wang Ling. In descending order of probability, the old man was very likely to face one of the following three outcomes. First, he would directly explode on the spot. Second, he would directly turn black. Third, he would be cured of dementia. Of course, the last possibility was the least likely. The target was his grandfather, and Wang Ling didn't want to treat him like a lab rat and run the risk of doing experiments. While the father and son pair were staring at Grandfather Wang helplessly, Wang Ling heard the sound of the kitchen range hood stop. He saw Mother Wang take off her apron with one hand and push open the kitchen door. Seeing this scene in the living room, Mother Wang looked at the cooked food in the kitchen and finally sighed. She then followed Father Wang to sit next to the old man, and the couple and the old man started to stare at the portrait together. Wang Ling rubbed his eyebrows, then slowly told Father and Mother Wang about Teacher Pan's home visit tomorrow. In the end, the three people on the sofa suddenly raised their heads with horrified expressions. Home visit? Why didn't you say so earlier? Wang Ling, Father Wang put his arm around the old man's shoulder. Dad, that's great. You can finally get what you wanted. As if his acupuncture points had been unlocked, the old man instantly sobered up and sobbed excitedly. Little Pan. I never thought that I'd have the chance to see Little Pan again. Grandfather Wang's emotions flared up to the point where he almost couldn't control himself. His eyes were very red and there were faint tears in them, but they didn't fall. It had been a long time since Wang Ling had seen the old man this excited. He remembered that the last time his grandfather had lost control of his emotions was not long after Wang Ling had been born, and the old man had carried him to his grandmother's grave to sweep it. But in the past, when he had lost control of his emotions, most of them had been tragic. This time, the old man was emotional, but in fact, he was crying tears of joy. Father and Mother Wang were a little happy in their hearts. It seemed that the old man's dementia could finally be cured. After that, the couple kept Grandfather Wong busy all night as they worked on what to say to Teacher Pan in front of him tomorrow. In the end, based on the results of their discussion, the couple decided to hide in the study tomorrow and let the old man and Wong Ling and his grandson do as they pleased. In doing so, it was in fact indirectly creating a relatively larger space for the old man and Teacher Pan. Although Wong Ling was there, he didn't say anything, so it wouldn't be bad even if he was a third wheel on the side. The next day, at around 9 o'clock on Saturday, May 23rd, the doorbell of the Wong family's small villa rang. Wong Ling opened the door and saw a devastatingly beautiful woman in a light green lace dress with her long hair in a ponytail and regular features standing in front of him. Then, a familiar voice came out of the beautiful woman's mouth. "Good morning, classmate Wong Ling. Your house is really far away. It took me a long time to find you." Chapter 111. The beauty standing in front of Wong Ling made him feel a trace of fear for the first time. No one would have thought that this beautiful woman with flowing hair, fair skin, and no wrinkles at all was actually the F***King's same person as Teacher Pan. So, Teacher Pan's deformed body, which was almost like a bucket waist, and her mottled white hair in a ponytail, was she on leave today because she was on her period? Wong Ling stared at the devastatingly beautiful Teacher Pan in shock, as if he had just watched a horror movie and hadn't come back to his senses. Even if it was makeup, it shouldn't be this bad. Looking at Teacher Pan in front of him, Wong Ling suddenly remembered the three great evil arts that all female cultivators in the cultivation world nowadays flock to: plastic surgery, Photoshop, and makeup. Student Wong Ling, what nonsense are you thinking? Teacher Pan was delighted to see the surprised expression on this habitually paralyzed student's face, which she hadn't seen in a long time. There's a school rule that says teachers aren't allowed to wear heavy makeup, nor are they allowed to take any youth-retaining elixirs and the like. But I'm not at school right now, so I took a quick-acting youth-retaining pill when I set off this morning. Student Wong Ling, don't tell the other students. Hearing Teacher Pan's explanation, Wong Ling instantly understood. The quick-acting youth-retaining pill on the market only lasted for 24 hours, and its effects would disappear once the time was up. But after taking it, it would immediately tighten one's skin, making one's body look younger and radiant, restoring one's appearance to that of an 18-year-old. So, the Teacher Pan who was standing in front of them after taking the quick-acting youth-retaining pill was in fact her 18-year-old appearance. Wong Ling really never thought that Teacher Pan would actually be so beautiful when she was young. After entering and changing into slippers, Teacher Pan sized up the layout of the Wong family's small villa, and then frowned slightly imperceptibly. This was because she sensed that there was no spirit energy in this small villa. Nowadays, many parents would set up a spirit gathering array in the house for their children's sleep and normal cultivation. Logically speaking, a spirit gathering array for students was relatively small and not very expensive, but Teacher Pan had never expected the Wong family to be so poor that they couldn't even set up a spirit gathering array. So, had student Wong Ling grown up in this kind of environment without a spirit gathering array, and cultivated step by step until he reached the foundation establishment stage? Without any assistance, relying purely on talent to cultivate to the foundation establishment stage, how much suffering would one have to go through? Teacher Pan looked at Wong Ling with a little pity in her eyes, feeling that this child was really too pitiful. Wong Ling. When Teacher Pan walked into the living room, Grandfather Wong instantly stood up from the sofa. Their gazes met for a moment and they were both a little stunned. Old Man Wong was stunned because he didn't expect that after so many years, Teacher Pan Shing-tsung was still as young as before. Teacher Pan was also dumbfounded because she felt that this spirited old man in front of her somehow looked familiar, but she couldn't quite put her finger on who this person was. On the side, Wong Ling read Teacher Pan's thoughts. It was very obvious that Teacher Pan already didn't remember Grandfather Wong. After all, this was something that happened many years ago. Most importantly, back then, Old Man Wong had a one-sided love. He had never experienced the pain of unrequited love before. At that moment, Grandfather Wang was probably the only one who could understand this complicated feeling. The two of them looked at each other for a long time. Seeing that Teacher Pan didn't recognize him after a long time, Grandfather Wang sighed a little dejectedly in his heart. I'm getting old, in the end. I'm no longer the same as I was back then. As their gazes met, Wang Ling also read the insurmountable gap between cultivators and ordinary people. Cultivators could cultivate to retain their youth, and could even take elixirs to maintain their youthful looks. However, the power of the face-retaining pill could only be completely dissolved by spiritual power, so that the effect of the pill could be maximized. For an ordinary person, because of the lack of spiritual power in their body, no matter how much they took the face-retaining pill, they would slowly age in the end. Was it sad? Maybe a little. But this was reality. Grandfather Wang was a very open-minded person, and didn't take things too hard. He waved his hand for Teacher Pan to sit down, and offered her a cup of black tea. Teacher Pan, please sit down and have some tea. Hello, old man, you are. Teacher Pan frowned. Oh, I'm Wang Ling's grandfather. Ling Ling's parents have something urgent to attend to today. So it's my turn to receive Teacher Pan. Very well. Teacher Pan suddenly understood and smiled. It's fine, I also decided to pay a home visit at the last minute. Wang Ling felt that Teacher Pan, who had become younger, seemed to have become younger everywhere except for her voice. Even her mentality was completely different from the Teacher Pan who usually taught in the classroom. She was exceptionally gentle and cordial. Teacher Pan, you're too polite. The old man laughed heartily. Then, old sir, how should I address you? Mr. Wang or Grandpa Wang? Wang Ling, old man Wang felt a sharp pain in his heart again. But it was very clear that Grandfather Wang didn't want to know what it was like to be called Grandpa by his first love, let alone experience it. After quickly calming his messy thoughts, the old man replied, let's just call him Mr. Wang. Very well, Mr. Wang. Teacher Pan smiled very sweetly. If Wang Ling were to see her holding a cup of milk tea at this moment, she would be a match for the online celebrity milk tea sister. Wang Ling sat in front of the two of them and listened as they exchanged a few polite words before they started to talk about themselves. This child Wang Ling is usually very quiet at school. I originally thought that the family atmosphere was a big factor. But during this home visit, I realized that Mr. Wang's mentality is really very young. The old man scratched his big bald head in embarrassment. This child is actually very warm-hearted, just like his parents, and is a good child who is happy to help others. Once you get to know him, you'll notice another side of him that's different. But usually, this was how he looked like. It's been like this since he was young, and he can't change it. Our family even gave his facial paralysis a name, which is family denial syndrome. Teacher Pan, please don't take offense. Wang Ling, Teacher Pan covered her mouth and laughed. Mr. Wang is really humorous. I have a question for Mr. Wang. The old man, what is it? Teacher Pan, Mr. Wang, do you know when student Wang Ling was born? The old man quickly replied, it was December 26th. Teacher Pan stared at Wang Ling and shook her head with a little sigh. No wonder, the old man, is there a problem, Teacher Pan? Teacher Pan, nothing, I just suddenly realized that student Wang Ling is indeed a Capricorn. Chapter 112. I've always thought that student Wang Ling is a very good child, and he usually doesn't cause trouble at school. He's very well behaved. No matter how poor we are, we can't be poor in education. I hope that our school's special subsidy this time will truly help student Wang Ling. Given student Wang Ling's talent, as long as he has enough resources, it won't be a problem at all for him to reach the golden core stage. When Teacher Pan said this, she reached out to rub Wang Ling's head, and the expression on Wang Ling's face dimmed even more. The old man nodded. Teacher Pan is right. No matter how poor we are, we can't be poorer in education. Ling Ling has always been the pride of our Wang family. Teacher Pan smiled and nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. After that, the old man invited Teacher Pan to take a stroll upstairs. The two of them talked and laughed, while Wang Ling followed them calmly. When Teacher Pan reached the study, Father and Mother Wang, who were hiding inside, held their breaths at the same time. Teacher Pan, what's wrong? The old man asked. Teacher Pan pointed at the study as she sensed an aura. There seems to be someone inside. Wang Ling broke out in a sweat and hurriedly spread out his strength to cover up Father and Mother Wang's aura. Teacher Pan used her spiritual senses to feel out again, and then realized that the aura she had sensed earlier had unexpectedly disappeared, so she frowned strangely. Ah, strange, the old man smiled awkwardly. Maybe it's a rat. Teacher Pan was startled. There are rats in this villa. The old man sighed helplessly. It's the suburbs, it's not strange to have rats. This guy is rich in protein, and can be eaten anywhere else after removing the head and tail. When our family couldn't afford to eat before, I often caught rats for my child's father to roast. Teacher Pan. Wang Ling suddenly realized that the old man was a little good at bullshitting. As they talked and laughed, it was already noon, and Teacher Pan and the old man came downstairs. Mr. Wang, I have 2 students to visit in the afternoon, so let's call it a day. Teacher Pan smiled at the old man. The old man was a little absent-minded when he saw this smile. Seeing that Teacher Pan was about to reach the entrance, he hurriedly grabbed her hand. Teacher Pan, you haven't eaten yet, right? Do you want to stay and eat? This is so embarrassing. As the old man spoke, he had already taken the apron from the hanger. It's just a simple meal. How about the sweet and sour pork set? Teacher Pan's expression changed a little. The old man's words were like an arrow shooting into an old photo album in her memory. This old photo album was very old and had already turned yellow. The pages were so blurry that even the faces on them could not be seen clearly. In the end, Teacher Pan stayed, but her expression was clearly a little different from before. A sweet and sour spare rib set meal. This should have been his favorite food when he was young. How did this person know? Was it a coincidence? Teacher Pan was silent. She sat quietly in the living room and didn't speak to Wang Ling. She stared blankly at the old man's busy figure in the kitchen. The old man held the kitchen knife, his old hand mottled with wrinkles and a few obvious old wounds. Whether it was his left hand holding the chopping board or his right hand holding the knife, they were all covered with calluses. Needless to say, Teacher Pan could guess that the old man was an old chef who had been in the business for at least several decades. Teacher Pan quietly recalled the old photo in her memory, and it was as if she could already see the outline of it. But the old man had already swiftly and decisively prepared the simple meal. This was a sweet and sour pork ribs covered with rice. Pieces of red ribs were soaked in the sparkling and translucent broth. The ribs were wrapped in a golden coat and emitted a refreshing fragrance. Just the smell alone was enough to make one salivate uncontrollably. Teacher Pan stared at the ribs, her eyes clearly a little unfocused and absent-minded. This set of rice with rice with rice with rice used to be my specialty. I haven't made it in a long time, I don't know if it still tastes good. The old man untied his apron and sat opposite Teacher Pan. Teacher Pan, try it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wang. Teacher Pan ate the rice in small bites, then took a small bite of the ribs. The ribs cooked by the old man were very soft, and felt as if they would melt in the mouth. However, the taste seemed a little special, especially when the gravy washed over the taste buds. It actually had a cool taste, which couldn't help but whet one's appetite. It's really a special taste. Teacher Pan was full of praise. Why does this sweet and sour pork have a cool feeling? Grandfather Wang, I just realized that there was no more sugar in the house, so I used Gigi syrup to replace it. Teacher Pan, Wang Ling. Before she left, Teacher Pan stood at the door and bowed deeply to the old man. Thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Wang, your cooking is excellent. The old man was a little sad. Teacher Pan, please come back again. Of course. Teacher Pan smiled slightly as she stood at the entrance of the Wang family's small villa. The afternoon sun shone on her face, and her tightly furrowed eyebrows gradually relaxed. Her eyes twinkled as she solemnly said goodbye to the old man in an incomparably gentle manner, then slowly turned around and left. Looking at this scene, Wang Ling knew that this story of first love, which had spanned so many years in time, had come to an end at this moment. The old man stood at the door and watched as Teacher Pan walked along East Wang Road to the bus stop. In the end, Teacher Pan still couldn't recognize who the old man was. But it didn't seem that important to the old man anymore. In the middle of the night, the old man sat in the living room and flipped through the love letter he had written to his first love. On the back of the letter, he had written his final farewell to his first love, stroke by stroke. This was a hymn, the first and the last one, whether it was the beginning of the throbbing or the ending of the unrequited love or the moving journey of more than 30 years, the ending had already been written. I suddenly forgot the beginning of the pursuit, but it's hard to forget your youthful face, to write a full stop to those 30 years of youth. Everything is too beautiful. Youth, first love, these two books seem to have been written in a hurry. But fortunately, the last full stop touched on the rainbow-colored clouds. May you be happy, like the rainbow, if you are well, the sky is clear. In the bedroom, Wang Ling quietly looked at the last hymn that the old man had written. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly understood. Chapter 113. Back then, after Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had bulldozed the villa's back garden, he had built a simple sunroom in its place. There were all kinds of hybrid spirit herbs planted inside, which Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal used for research. It had always been Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's dream to become the father of hybrid spirit herbs in the cultivation world. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always wanted to develop a kind of spirit herb that was easy to grow and could quickly gather the spirit energy of heaven and earth for children in poorer areas who didn't have the resources to cultivate. Long before he had moved to Wenxian Garden, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had been doing research in this area. Unfortunately, there were a lot of technical problems with hybrid spirit herbs, and 2 months ago, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's research had hit a bottleneck. Furthermore, he still hadn't made a breakthrough. Just as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mentality was about to collapse, Grandfather Wang's broccoli gave him renewed confidence in his research. After returning home from the Wang family's small villa, the first thing Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal did after connecting with Little Black was to transplant the broccoli into the spirit soil in the sunroom. Although this broccoli had already been cooked by Old Man Wang, the strange power of the cultivation spirit land could bring this broccoli back to life. This was an important revelation that the great senior had left for him on his path of cultivation. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that no matter what, he had to preserve this broccoli. Early in the morning on Sunday, May 23rd, when the first ray of sunlight shone through the early morning clouds, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was sitting cross-legged in his villa's back garden to cultivate. Since transplanting this broccoli, apart from watching ghost videos regularly to train his eyesight, sitting cross-legged in front of this broccoli in the sunroom every morning had already become a compulsory course for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Crossing his arms and sitting cross-legged, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal straightened his back and stared fixedly at the broccoli. As he pondered this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he was only a thin layer of window paper away from comprehending heavenly Tao and advancing from the soul formation stage to the void refinement stage. But unfortunately, he still couldn't figure out why that great senior had given him this broccoli back then. While he was pondering this, he received a message saying, "Unknown area." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately knew that this message had to be from Little Black. When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal opened the message and read it, his expression gradually turned solemn. His finger swiped across the screen until he reached the bottom of the message, and he actually stood up in astonishment. He confirmed the content of the message again, then, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. Because, according to Little Black's investigation, the Lord of Mo Immortal Castle seemed to have some connection with Immortal Sheep Pie. Could this be the child left behind by Immortal Sheep Pie before he was dismembered? Because there was no concrete evidence, everything was unknown. Xiao Hei's investigation was only based on the use of a computer, combined with all kinds of data to calculate the results, so there was a certain degree of uncertainty in itself. At the bottom of the message, Xiao Hei also specially marked the accuracy of this information. According to the results of the computer deduction, the comprehensive accuracy of this information was 58%. 58%. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought that even if this Lord of Mo Immortal Castle wasn't Immortal Sheep Pie's child, it was still related to him. However, according to the historical records and some gossip that he had learned, Immortal Sheep Pie had not accepted any disciples before his death. Then, who on earth was this Lord of the Castle who had a close relationship with Immortal Sheep Pie? Was the reason why he was so eager to obtain the Stone Ghost Mask, revenge? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't dare guarantee it. At the moment, everything was unknown, but it was very clear that this was a big problem that couldn't be ignored. He had boasted in front of Brother Ling and the other great seniors. Before finding the mask maker, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already vowed that he would absolutely protect the Stone Ghost Mask. After his morning exercise, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal went to reinforce the seal on the Stone Ghost Mask as usual. This was a cursed mask, and there were too many uncertainties and it was very unsafe to carry around with him. Thus, the Stone Ghost Mask was currently sealed in a room in the basement by Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. The mold on the outside had been custom-made by Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, and he had personally drawn a talisman seal on it to suppress the evil power of the Stone Ghost Mask. At the four corners of the mold, there were 4 netherworld chains hanging from it. The netherworld chain was an immortal artifact which Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had bought from the market back then. It was hard and had a strong self-healing ability. The only way to take the Stone Ghost Mask away was to cut off all the netherworld chains. Otherwise, there was no other way. This seal could be said to be watertight, but Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still felt that there were some problems with the security measures. There were some defensive measures set up inside and outside the room, and there was even a comprehensive surveillance system. As long as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal used the bound application on his wristwatch, he would be able to see everything even if he was in outer space. But Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still felt that something was missing. After pondering for a while with his chin in his hand, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mind flashed as he instantly thought of something. Generally speaking, there would be a watchdog next to a divine weapon or some sealed object, right? I still lack a watchdog. After thinking it through, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately made a call, and the person who picked up was none other than the alchemist in the group, Immortal Toya. As soon as the call was picked up, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal heard a loud boom on the other end of the line. Needless to say, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that this guy's furnace had exploded again. Cough, cough, cough. Immortal Toya coughed violently, as if he had choked on the smoke from the furnace explosion. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could imagine the scene over the phone. Cough, cough. Hello, who is this? I'm Toya, what can I do for you? I'm Grenade-throwing. Realization dawned on Immortal Toya. Oh, so it's Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what are you doing, brother two? Immortal Toya, HM. I was just researching a new type of elixir. After taking it, you'll have a 24-hour Wi-Fi signal. Why are you looking for me, Senior Immortal? Grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't bother with pleasantries, and got straight to the point. Given his friendship with Immortal Toya, there was no need to beat around the bush at all. After listening to the request, Immortal Toya on the other end of the line was blank. Doshir. Why would you want to borrow a Doshir from me? Go to the Shao clan. However, the remaining Doshirs were all antiques. Without Do-Chi to drive them, and without the ability to use spiritual energy, they were basically useless. Now, they're just security guards for the Shao family compound to maintain security and order. Grenade-throwing senior immortal broke out in a sweat. Brother 2, are you deliberately playing dumb? I don't want a Doshir. I want a fighting lion. The lion of lions. The thing you won from the Shao clan's elixir competition back then. Chapter 114. The fighting lion was a hybrid spirit beast bred by the Shao clan after the spiritual energy era began. It possessed wind and fire elements. Among them, the fire element was the most common, followed by the wind element. There were also a few fighting lions that possessed two elements at the same time, and they were priceless. A young fighting lion was at the level of a human gold core stage. Not only was it muscular and agile, but it also had a strong learning ability. Even the overall level of intelligence was ranked at the top of the mammalian spirit beasts. Because of its ferocity, the cultivation of fighting lions was restricted under the supervision of Huaxiao Nation's Spirit Pet Supervision Bureau. Therefore, fighting lions were very rare. The Shao clan had only cultivated about 500 fighting lions. He was kept in the Wuta forest by the Shao clan. The one in Immortal Toya's hand was the one he had won in the elixir competition back then. Now, Immortal Toya was an advisor to the Shao clan's Alchemists Association, and his relationship with the clan could be said to be unusual. Immortal Toya, this little thing is hard to discipline. When I took it in back then, it was only the size of a basketball, but it managed to bite through 8 of my pill furnaces. May I ask Brother Lei, why do you want to borrow this fighting lion? I wanted to keep an eye on things for me. Anyway, it's where you are. Just keep an eye on the orchard, right? He even stole and ate spirit fruits. Now is the time to test its combat strength. Immortal Toya shrugged. Then, for how long? Grenade-throwing senior immortal quickly replied, half a month. Immortal Toya asked again, then, is it dangerous? Grenade-throwing senior immortal, I might die. Immortal Toya, but don't worry, Brother 2. If he dies, I'll give you an even better one. Do you know about the fighting phoenix? This was the latest hybrid spiritual bird that the Shao clan had recently bred. It was King awesome. I'll steal one for you another day. Grenade-throwing senior immortal vowed. Immortal Toya, it went without saying how precious a fighting lion was. If an ordinary person had come to borrow it, Immortal Toya would have immediately refused. However, it was Grenade-throwing senior immortal who had come to borrow it this time. Given their friendship and face, Immortal Toya knew that he had no choice but to lend it to him this time. In the evening, Grenade-throwing senior immortal received a text message from Wang Ling. There were some things to take note of when attending the parent-teacher conference. It could be summed up in one word: low profile. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was well aware of this brother Ling's personality. He was a guy who liked to keep a low profile. But to be honest, Grenade-throwing senior immortal was a little bewildered by the parent-teacher conference. He didn't even have a child, and now he had to pretend to be a parent to attend the masquerade. Just thinking about it was a pain in the ass. After thinking for a while, Lei Muren suddenly thought of something. He raised his hand and called Xiao Hei. Hey, Xiao Hei, help me investigate one more thing. Right, help me look up information on all the parents and teachers in grade 1, class 3 of number 60 high school. After saying that, Grenade-throwing senior immortal happily hung up. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will emerge victorious in every battle. At the same time, in the Foreign Language Research Office of Landscape Manor, two men in suits, one tall and one short, were reporting in front of Director Song's desk. The tall man in a suit handed them a report which clearly listed the entire day's surveillance of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. At 4 o'clock, the target got out of bed and went to the back garden. He sat cross-legged in front of a broccoli and stared at it with his head bowed in deep thought. At 5 o'clock, the target continued to stare at the broccoli with his head bowed in deep thought. At 6 o'clock, the target was still staring at the broccoli with his head bowed in deep thought. At 7 o'clock, the target was still staring at the broccoli when he suddenly stood up in surprise. Director Song stared at the report with a stupefied expression. What the hell was this guy doing? Before Director Song could think it through, his wristwatch rang. Seeing the caller ID, he was so frightened that his wrist trembled. It was a call from the Lord of the Castle. How's the situation going? The Lord of Mo Immortal Castle's deep male voice came from the other end of the line. Lord, we've been monitoring the target all day, but his behavior seems very suspicious. He actually sat cross-legged and stared at a broccoli for 3 whole hours. The person on the other end of the line was clearly stunned for a few seconds before he slowly said, "This great death-courting senior is famous in the circle. How can the likes of you fathom the thoughts of a soul formation cultivator? The Lord of the Castle is right. It doesn't matter what this great death-courting senior is thinking. But one thing is certain, given this senior's thinking, the more suspicious his behavior is, the more urgent this matter can't be dragged on. So, are we going to take it by force?" Director Song was a little apprehensive. In the end, it had still come to this, but it wouldn't be easy to take this mask from a soul formation cultivator. I know what you're worried about. It won't be easy to snatch the mask from this great death-courting senior. This senior definitely has a thorough understanding of the stone ghost mask. There's a strong curse on it, so it can't be carried around. I'm sure this mask is still in this villa. I'm afraid it's been sealed away by this senior. The Lord of the Castle is right. Director Song nodded. Even if we can break into the villa, it'll take some time to break the seal. Hee, not necessarily. The voice on the other end of the line sneered in a low voice. I admit that this great death-courting senior is indeed very troublesome. A soul formation cultivator isn't easy to deal with. But if we can send someone of equal strength, perhaps the outcome will be different. The Lord of the Castle means, how about 5 soul formation cultivators? The voice laughed. I want you to organize a plan to deploy them to invade and seize the stone ghost mask. 5 soul formation cultivators? Director Song felt his hands tremble. Isn't 5 enough? If it isn't, the voice on the other end of the line continued to speak in a low and shocking voice. Then 10 soul formation cultivators. Director Song was already completely incoherent, and the 2 golden core men in suits standing in front of him had lifeless expressions on their faces. He was just a nascent soul cultivator, but now he had to command 10 soul formation cultivators at the same time to complete a mission. I recently spent a priceless treasure in exchange for these 10 soul formation cultivators. They signed a contract to serve my Mo Immortal Castle for 3 years. You've been with me for many years, and you've rarely failed. This time, I hope we can smoothly complete the mission. The stone ghost mask is something that my Mo Immortal Castle must have. It can't fall into anyone's hands. Director Song held his thigh as he answered the phone. Don't worry, Lord of the Castle. I will definitely complete the mission smoothly. I won't let you down. While Director Song was on the phone, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had fallen into a dilemma again. There were times when he was a man with obsessive-compulsive disorder, anxiety disorder, and a perfectionist Virgo. He had to ensure that the stone ghost mask was absolutely safe when he wasn't at the villa tomorrow. Although he had already hired a fighting lion to guard the villa, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still felt a little uneasy. It was like going out for less than 5 minutes and suddenly starting to wonder if his door was locked or the gas was turned off. Thus, after some thought, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal made another call. Chapter 115. It was Monday, May 24th, and today was the day of the parent-teacher conference. It was also the most uneasy day for all the students of number 60 high school. Wang Ling was probably the only one whose heart was as calm as an ancient well, and even felt like laughing a little. This wasn't the first time they had found someone to attend the parent-teacher conference in their place. The main reason was that the Wang couple themselves didn't want to attend, because it would cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. First of all, the couple considered themselves ordinary people who didn't know how to cultivate, so they didn't have anything in common with the other parents. Moreover, the child of two ordinary people had actually cultivated to the foundation establishment stage and entered a cultivation high school. Just the thought of it was suspicious. Another reason was that the couple had had enough of the other parents comparing themselves to each other. At parent-teacher conferences, the most common thing one would hear before the start of the meeting was that so-and-so parents would brag about how outstanding their child was, how proficient they were in the flying sword technique, and how high their scores in the cultivation theory test. Father and Mother Wang both agreed that these outstanding children couldn't be compared with their Ling Ling at all. In any case, if they really got into a fight, Wang Ling would kill them with one slap. Being invincible was so lonely. Thus, after Father and Mother Wang thought things through, they never attended parent-teacher conferences again after Wang Ling was in elementary school. This kind of conference was simply too boring. At 9:00 in the morning, Wang Ling showed up at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's Wenxian Garden Luxury Villa Complex as promised. Because he still had to go to school, Wang Ling had only sent a clone to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's house. Although it was just a clone, Wang Ling felt that it was enough to protect the stone ghost mask. When he arrived at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's house, he saw a huge Shun Feng God Express container truck parked in front of the house. Two Shun Feng God Express delivery men in black suits jumped out of the truck and pressed a button on the remote control in their hands. The container immediately opened on all sides, and a huge cage came into view. Inside the cage was a golden red lion which was 3 times the size of a spirit lion in an average cultivation zoo. Wang Ling recognized at one glance that this was a fighting lion bred by the Shao clan. This fighting lion was pretty well raised. Its limbs were powerful and very strong, and one could faintly see the thick veins hidden under its skin. The moment the container opened, its flame-colored mane fluttered in the wind. When its gaze fell on the God Express delivery men, both of them couldn't help trembling. The God Express delivery men couldn't help sweating as they thought of a detail. It seemed that before the lion had been sent here, its owner, Immortal Toya, had fed it a calming pill. Obviously, the effect of the medicine was about to expire. As everyone knows, fighting lions have relatively hot tempers. As long as they are not around their master, they are almost always in a state of rage. The two divine couriers hurriedly put the cage on the ground and closed the door of the container truck. Standing anxiously at the door, when he saw Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal open the door and come out, he immediately braced himself and bowed in salute. Shun Feng Shun's mission. Please sign for it, Mr. Lei. Shun, don't we need a 5-star rating today? The God Express delivery men's realms weren't high, and were only at the golden core stage. They couldn't withstand this fighting lion's gaze at all, and just wanted to leave as soon as possible. There's still plenty of time for a good rating. It's good that Mr. Lei is satisfied with our service. We'll take our leave first. The two God Express delivery men bowed again and then drove off in the container truck as if they were fleeing. Looking at this scene, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help laughing. What two cowards! After the container truck drove away, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw Wang Ling, who had been blocked by the container truck earlier, and immediately stepped forward to greet him warmly. Yo! Brother Ling! Nasai bunny me bunny yo. Wong Ling, let me introduce you, Brother Ling. The guy in the cage is the fighting lion I borrowed from Immortal Toya. It's specially here to help me guard the seal, so you two should take care of each other today. Saying this, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal undid the heavy black iron chains on the cage. Brother Fighting, you can come out now. The fighting lion lay lazily in the cage and just raised its eyelids, showing no intention of coming out at all. Wong Ling, it was obvious that it hadn't been completely tamed yet. Adult fighting lions generally only listen to their masters. When their masters weren't around, they wouldn't listen to anyone at all. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was a little embarrassed at this scene. He was at the soul formation stage, and in front of his best brother, he couldn't even tame a lion cub. It was really a little embarrassing. He put his hands on his hips and looked like he was going to negotiate with the fighting lion. Brother Fighting, give me some face and hurry up and come out of the cage, won't you? Brother Toya and I have known each other for so many years, and he sent you to me because the organization trusts you. Do you understand? The fighting lion rolled its eyes at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Brother Fighting, I've never humbled myself like this before. Let me tell you, if you weren't Brother Toya's pet, I would have beaten you to a pulp. If it weren't for Brother Toya, I would have beaten you down long ago. Let me tell you, hurry up and come out of the cage, otherwise I'll go crazy, and even I'm afraid of myself. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hooted as he stuck his head directly into the cage. Then, Wong Ling saw the fighting lion bite down on grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's head with a howl. In an instant, blood gushed out and flowed down grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's neck. Wong Ling, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who was still in the lion's mouth, sighed. I've embarrassed myself in front of Brother Ling, I was already prepared. As soon as he said this, an old voice rang out from his wristwatch. Evil creature. Let go. It was Immortal Toya's voice. Sure enough, when the fighting lion heard this voice, it immediately let go. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal successfully escaped from the lion's mouth and wiped the blood on his neck. Luckily, I was smart. I asked Brother Toya for a recording. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal pressed the play button. The only thing Wong Ling heard was evil creature. Let go. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also had Immortal Toya record a few other words, which were evil creature. Get down. Evil creature. Get down. Evil creature. Raise your hands, and go, evil creature. I've decided on you. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed. If Brother Ling can't handle it later, just directly play the recording. Wong Ling looked at the fighting lion in the cage, his eyes calm and without the slightest ripple of emotion. He didn't use the slightest bit of pressure to deliberately oppress this fighting lion. Just a glance was enough to make this majestic fighting lion so scared that its mane stood on end. What kind of pressure was this? The fighting lion was terrified and had an indescribable feeling. As a spirit beast, its almost innate sense for danger told it that this wasn't a guy it could easily provoke. What should it do? Should it show goodwill? Otherwise, it would die. The fighting lion thought for a moment. There was no other way. Now that things had come to this, it could only learn the cat's common trick of acting cute. Then, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wong Ling saw the fighting lion slowly walk out of the cage and turn over in front of them. It raised its little paws, exposed its belly, and closed its eyes miserably. Come on. I'll let you feel good once. Chapter 116. Killing with one's gaze was Wong Ling's usual trick. If Loopy Toad was here, as the toad that had come over, it would definitely express deep sympathy for this fighting lion's misfortune. When grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw that the fighting lion had instantly become as obedient as a cat, he couldn't help showing a surprised expression. Once again, he was deeply impressed by the miraculousness of his brother Ling. He remembered that when he had asked Wang Ling to accompany him to hunt down the demon beasts that had escaped from the gate between worlds, Wang Ling had been like this almost every time. He had felled those demon beasts with just one look. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was sure that this definitely wasn't a spell or a forced spiritual pressure. It was just a simple glance. Without using any cultivation techniques, to what extent could the oppressive feeling created by a mere gaze reach? Grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that Wang Ling could perfectly illustrate this point. Of course, temperament played a part in this. In a situation where their realms were equal, the more powerful one's essence, qi, and spirit were able to instill a deeper sense of fear. But this also reflected Wang Ling's true strength, which was unfathomable. Of course, grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't know that the one in front of him was actually just a clone of Wang Ling. Wang Ling felt that if this great death-courting senior knew the truth, he would definitely cry on the spot. 6 years ago, when the demon rampage had started, apart from Odd Zhua and the others who had been awarded meritorious service, there had been no other survivors. In fact, there were also some strong cultivators hired by the government to deal with the aftermath of the incident and clean up the mess. Mercenaries at the soul formation stage were scarce all over the world, and in the cultivation circle of Huaxiu Nation, the 10 saints were the most famous. The 10 sages represented a mercenary group of 10 people, all of whom were at the soul formation stage. The 10 saints had 2 characteristics. First, they were not only strong, but also brutal. Ever since the establishment of the 10 saints, all the missions they had received had been large-scale. And every time they went on a mission, the 10 saints had a habit of wiping out their opponents, leaving no one alive. Employers in the industry had once made a rather clear assessment of the 10 saints. When the 10 saints go to war, not even a blade of grass will grow. The second characteristic, love of money. As soul formation stage mercenaries that could be bought with money, the 10 sages were rare existences. However, employers who could hire the 10 saints were quite rare. This was because every single one of the 10 saints had a sky-high price. Therefore, to the 10 saints, there was no real justice to speak of. They could be hired by the government to clean up the mess, or they could be hired to do some bad things. For the 10 saints, money was justice. As long as they paid enough, they didn't mind calling you daddy. Therefore, when director Song Qing-shu found out that the people he was going to command were actually the 10 saints, he was extremely shocked. For the first time, he felt that he had underestimated the strength of the castle lord. Employing 10 people at the same time was an immeasurably huge sum of money. Even Huaguo Water Curtain Group, the largest elixir group in Huaxiu Nation, would have to think twice. But this time, the lord of the castle had actually obtained the right to use these 10 people for 3 years. What kind of priceless treasure was that? Song Qing-shu found it hard to imagine with his limited experience. At around 4:00 in the afternoon, grenade-throwing senior immortal was ready to set off from the villa. When he drove the immortal sword, he often unknowingly had the habit of speeding. By the time the score for his sword-riding license was refreshed back to 12 points in June, grenade-throwing senior immortal was already down to 2 points, so this time, he planned to take a spirit car. It would only take him a little over an hour to get to Wang Ling's school, just in time for the parent-teacher conference. As a citizen of Huaxiu Nation, even if he was at the soul formation stage, he still had to abide by the basic law. He had to maintain good citizenship. This had always been grenade-throwing senior immortal's code of conduct. After all, times were different now. In the past, as long as your realm was strong enough, you could do whatever you wanted. Take the most cliched example of auctions. In the past, even if you bought something with money, you could be in danger of being killed and robbed at any time. But now, with the cultivation police and the orthodox legal system, the era when realm was everything had long since passed. You had strength in a high realm, but if you broke the law, you would still be thrown in jail and picked up soap with your brothers. Everyone knew that grenade-throwing senior immortal liked to court death, and often considered himself great death-courting senior, but he would never casually cross the bottom line of the law. "Brother Ling, I'll leave the rest to you." At the entrance of the villa, grenade-throwing senior immortal said goodbye to Wang Ling and was ready to leave. Wang Ling crossed his arms and leaned against the door with a solemn expression. The fighting lion squatted obediently next to Wang Ling and played around on the side. After being tamed by Wang Ling's gaze, it had changed its previously aloof and unapproachable attitude and turned around to lick its temples and its chrysanthemum. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was a little speechless. In front of Wang Ling, this guy already completely regarded itself as a cat. "Brother Ling, you feel it too, right?" Grenade-throwing senior immortal said as he stood at the entrance of the villa and looked at Wang Ling's solemn expression. Wang Ling nodded without hesitation. It was obvious that he sensed that there was more than one person watching this place at that very moment. "Looks like my worries weren't without reason. I knew that group of people wouldn't give up so easily." Wang Ling frowned. Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, "But with Brother Ling here, I'm sure we can handle it, right?" Wang Ling frowned again. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, "I say, Brother Ling, don't frown, you're making me panic." Wang Ling, there were a lot of reasons why Wang Ling could frown. For example, he had done too well in exams, his pocket money had been deducted by Father Wang, or the limited edition crispy noodle snacks that had been sold out. As for fear, of course, that didn't exist. Although Wang Ling had to admit that the auras of this group of people outside were indeed very strong, they were on a completely different level from the group of Shadow Stream assassins he had dealt with before. He just didn't know if they could take a beating. Wang Ling didn't even need to lift a finger to deal with the Shadow Stream group before they died from the backlash. Looking at the overall strength of this group of people outside, Wang Ling felt that they could probably take 2 or 3 more punches from him. The reason why Wang Ling frowned was that there seemed to be too many people on the other side, which was a little annoying. After all, tonight was the premiere of the latest large-scale cultivation anti-corruption TV series Righteousness of the People, and Wang Ling didn't want to miss it. Because during the premiere, Little Raccoon, as the title sponsor, would randomly select 300 people from the audience and give them a 30-year gift bag of crispy noodle snacks. Chapter 117. Given Wang Ling's current realm, even a clone had a tremendous amount of energy, and to control such a massive mass of energy would inevitably consume the main body's mental energy. How the F***K could he watch his TV series in peace? Sensing the auras of the 10 soul formation cultivators outside, Wang Ling felt like he had been tricked by grenade-throwing senior immortal again. He had thought that he would just have to watch the stone ghost mask for a while and wait for grenade-throwing senior immortal to come back from the parent-teacher conference. Thus, he had only sent a clone to watch over it. Who would have thought that the people from Landscape Manor would actually send 10 people, and all of them at the soul formation stage? Of course, if his main body had been here, Wang Ling wouldn't have been afraid. But the problem was that this was just a clone. As a clone, it had a fatal weakness, and that was that if it was subjected to a violent impact, its energy protection mechanism would activate, and it would instantly turn into a pile of dust. There were now 2 hours until the students of number 60 high were dismissed from school, and 3 hours before the TV series started airing. This meant that Wang Ling had to use this clone to get rid of all 10 soul formation cultivators within 2 hours. Then, he would take it back and happily go home to wait for the TV series. Cupping his chin, he pondered for a while. 2 minutes later, he thought of a safer way. In the current situation, the only way to minimize the risk of his clone disappearing was to make sure that it didn't come into contact with those people. Once the clone disappeared, even with the fighting lion guarding it, it wouldn't be able to fend off 10 soul formation cultivators who would forcibly seize the stone ghost mask. After searching around grenade-throwing senior immortal's villa for a long time, Wang Ling finally found cinnabar, yellow talismans, spirit water and a writing brush. Making talismans was a basic skill for cultivators, and these talisman-making tools were a necessity in almost every household. When Wang Ling saw that the cinnabar that grenade-throwing senior immortal had bought was actually mixed with black dust powder, he couldn't help sighing. When black dust powder was mixed with cinnabar, it greatly increased the success rate of making a talisman. On the market, 1 gram of black dust powder could sell for up to 20,000 HNY. How extravagant, but the truth was that Wang Ling didn't care at all whether there was black dust powder or not. Even without these supplementary materials, his success rate at making talismans was over 99%. It was only with a certain chance that he would fail when making an ultimate invincible talisman. This time, he was going to draw a functional talisman with the ultimate goal of strengthening the fighting lion. Immortal Toya's fighting lion was already very strong to begin with, and was comparable to a soul formation cultivator. What Wang Ling needed to do now was to package this fighting lion properly and add some special skills. The best would be to make it look very cool at first glance. There was a limousine parked on the roadside outside the Wenxian Garden Villa area. The tall man in a suit was in charge of setting up the vehicle while Song Qingshu sat in the front passenger seat. In the carriage behind him, the 10 saints sat cross-legged in a circle. The carriage had been expanded with space expansion technology. It was as big as a field, and it wouldn't be crowded even if 100 more people entered. Now, 10 semi-god realm cultivators were setting up a matrix together, which made the whole scene a bit shocking. "Lord Supervisor, what are the 10 saints doing?" asked a subordinate in a suit in the driver's seat. "He's setting up a heaven and earth spiritual perception array." Song Qingshu narrowed his eyes. A cultivator's perception of spiritual senses was like a cell phone signal. The higher a cultivator's realm was, the more sensitive they would be to nearby spiritual sense signals. The heaven and earth spiritual perception array that the 10 saints were setting up could converge spiritual senses into a cosmic torrent which connected heaven and earth, and then pour it down from the universe beyond the heavens, thus turning spiritual senses into a very secretive and invisible signal. No matter how powerful a person's realm was, they would let down their guard under this kind of spirit array, and be monitored invisibly. The Heaven and Earth Spirit Perception Array. Legend has it that this ancient array was used by the older generation cultivators in the ancient cultivation battlefield to monitor the movements of the demon race. When necessary, it could even be converted into an offensive method by gathering spiritual pressure to attack. The spiritual pressure would pour down from the sky like a satellite laser cannon with immense power. However, there were very few people who knew how to use this array nowadays. To activate it, one had to be at the soul formation stage. Furthermore, at least 3 people had to set up the array together. The more people there were, the stronger the effect of the array. In the front passenger seat, Song Qingshu couldn't help marveling in his heart as he looked at the image from the back of the car through the monitor screen. As expected of the 10 saints, they even know this kind of old array, and are so good at it. At that moment, an old man with a goatee inside the array said calmly, "Director Song, grenade-throwing senior immortal has already left." This person was the head of the 10 saints, and his Daoist name was Great Saint. Left? Song Qingshu frowned. Given grenade-throwing senior immortal's personality, there's no way he would seal the stone ghost mask in the villa alone. There must be some other defensive measures. Senior Great Saint, did you see anything else? The old man with the goatee nodded. As Director Song predicted, grenade-throwing senior immortal has left. Although this grenade-throwing senior immortal has left, we saw a youngster and a fighting lion in the villa. How could there be a fighting lion? Song Qingshu's eyes twitched. This fighting lion wasn't an ordinary spirit pet, it had been bred by the Shao clan. To be able to borrow a fighting lion, didn't this mean that grenade-throwing senior immortal's relationship with the Shao clan wasn't ordinary? The old Taoist with the goatee sneered. Should we get rid of this beast? Song Qingshu, I think, we still have to consider the influence of power. If we kill this fighting lion in public, I don't think the Shao clan will let it go. What do you think, Senior Great Saint? It seems that Director Song still doesn't understand our way of doing things. The old Taoist with the goatee shook his head. Director Song, do you know Taoist Hans Han and Taoist Diyun? Once, when the two Taoists battled, they came up with a famous saying. Song Qing-shu suddenly understood. It's that saying, the world slandered me, bullied me, humiliated me, laughed at me, belittled me, despised me, hated me, and lied to me. What should I do? Of course I know this. I also know the second half of the saying, as long as we tolerate them, let them, and let them. But before Song Qing-shu could finish speaking, the old Taoist with the goatee directly waved his hand and cut him off. No, that's not the second half of the saying. Song Qing-shu was a little puzzled. Please enlighten me, Senior Great Saint. I wouldn't dare to enlighten you. Director Song is a manager appointed by the Lord of the Castle. During the course of carrying out official duties, regardless of one's realm and position, we will naturally listen to Director Song's instructions and arrangements. The old Taoist smiled silently. However, in order to be able to carry out missions with greater rapport in the future, I think it's still necessary to explain the style of the 10 sages to Director Song. The saying of the battle between Taoist Hans Han and Taoist Diyun was really a cliché. Song Qing-shu was really quite curious. As the leader of the 10 sages, what kind of different opinion did this old Taoist with the goatee have on this saying, the world insults me, curses me, and bullies me? What should I do? Actually, it's very simple. Song Qing-shu stared at the monitor screen and saw the old Taoist sitting cross-legged in the array pinch his beard and say tirelessly, we just need to mess with him, play with him, laugh at him, chop him, mess with him, beat him, and wait a few years before visiting his grave. Song Qing-shu, after saying that, the old Taoist stroked his beard in satisfaction. This is the style of the 10 sages. It's just a beast. Regardless of whether it's from the Shao clan or not, we have nothing to fear. Chapter 118. After listening to the old Taoist with the goatee, Director Song truly felt that the 10 saints' brutality was indeed better seen than heard. Earlier, Song Qing-shu had heard a rumor that the 10 saints had once been hired by an employer to take revenge on the Ghost Clan. The reason was that they hadn't gotten an SSR when playing on Myoji. In the end, the 10 saints had prepared for 3 days, and on the first day, they had massacred the entire Ghost Clan, not even sparing their young master, Shutendaji. Song Qing-shu had thought that becoming enemies with the Shao clan was unnecessary trouble, and it would be best to avoid it if he could. But given the 10 saints' ruthless nature, it was impossible for this group of people to pay attention to the relationship between large clans and forces, and let this fighting lion go. Apart from that, Director Song also heard a hint of warning in those words. The general meaning was, we can listen to you, but don't let it affect our style of doing things. Otherwise, if we shed all pretenses of cordiality, it would be very ugly for everyone. Director Song wasn't a fool, and naturally understood the meaning behind these words. In the end, it was still a matter of realm. Although the modern cultivation era favored a society ruled by law and a hierarchical management system, there were still people who thought highly of their realms and despised authority. The 10 saints were typical examples. Song Qing-shu's heart was as clear as a mirror. The reason why this group of people still listened to him now was purely because of the Lord of the Castle. Once he was abandoned by the Lord of the Castle, his situation would become very dangerous. After thinking for a moment, Song Qing-shu sighed. Taking back the stone ghost mask is the Lord of the Castle's only request. As for that fighting lion and that youngster, seniors, please do whatever you want with them. But I need to remind you that since this youngster was invited by grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, he definitely isn't ordinary. Seniors, you still need to be careful when you act. Hee hee, he's just a youngster. Looking at his appearance, I'm guessing that he's just a servant that grenade-throwing senior immortal invited. We've been cultivating the ghost Tao for 1,000 years, what kind of demons and ghosts haven't we seen? He's just a mere servant, what do we have to fear? The old Taoist with the goatee sneered and looked around. Then, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Junior Marshall Brothers, listen to my command. We will cultivate together. Let's use this heaven and earth spirit perception array to gather spiritual pressure from beyond the sky and bombard this villa. If there's a living creature inside, it'll definitely be reduced to a meat patty. When the time comes, we can process these meat pies and make them into Lao Gonma meat sauce. This fresh meat sauce is the favorite of those ghost generals." Director Song and his subordinate in a suit broke out in a sweat. It was one thing to use spiritual pressure to flatten him into a meat patty, but he even wanted to make him into meat sauce. Sure enough, it was just as the rumors said, insane. Looking at the image on the monitor, the goateed old Taoist great sage and the other 10 sages had already begun to activate the spell formation. He switched the heaven and earth spirit perception array from a surveillance state to an offensive one. He could see that the image transmitted by the monitor was already unstable under the immense spiritual pressure. The heaven and earth spirit perception array had been switched from surveillance to attack. Spirit Taoist Great Saint Mo's Heaven. And a one true. Spirit Mo Song the Taoist the Emperor that the Tao Tian had the like it said with the Tao, the Taoist the Master, the Spirit, long said, the same, God, that the same person. When the spirit pressure reached a certain level, the old Taoist with the goatee roared, "Behold my invincible might, unstoppable." Then, the invisible torrent of energy suddenly shot into the sky and turned into a pillar of energy that broke through the dense clouds in the sky. The youngster in this villa and this fighting lion will die today. The old Taoist with the goatee smiled coldly as he manipulated this huge torrent of energy to pour down from the sky like a formula. Song Qingshu stared at the monitor screen and broke out in a cold sweat. The lord of the castle had requested that they retrieve the stone ghost mask without alerting anyone else. This heaven and earth spirit perception array produced spiritual pressure from beyond the sky and was a large-scale spiritual attack. If they couldn't accurately target the target and attack it, no living creature would be able to survive the spiritual pressure of these 10 soul formation cultivators. While Wang Ling was still drawing talismans in the villa, he noticed that the cinnabar on the table had started to tremble slightly. He silently raised his head and looked at the ceiling. Spiritual pressure from beyond the sky. He was a little surprised. He hadn't expected that there would actually be people who knew how to set up a heaven and earth spirit perception array nowadays. This was one of the 4 holy arrays that had been used to fight the demon race back then. It seemed that these people had a powerful background. But Wang Ling didn't think much of it. He turned his head to look at the fighting lion next to him, which was already curled up like a snail in fear. Spirit beasts were more sensitive to this kind of pressure than ordinary people, just like how snakes, worms, rats and ants were sensitive to earthquakes. This fighting lion was very strong, but it clearly wasn't strong enough to face the spiritual pressure of 10 soul formation cultivators. The other party's actions were already very obvious. They wanted to use the invisible spiritual pressure to kill them, but Wang Ling felt that this technique was still a little immature. The advantage of the heaven and earth spirit perception array lay in the invisible power that was gathered from beyond the sky. Even this clone of his could sense it, which proved that the other party's understanding and proficiency with this spirit array was still lacking. Just as this invisible spiritual pressure was about to reach the villa, Wang Ling calmly raised his head and blew at it. In the limousine, Director Song and his subordinate stared at the surveillance screen. A full 30 seconds had passed since the heaven and earth spirit perception array's attack mode had been activated, and the invisible spiritual pressure from beyond the sky had converged and attacked. However, whether it was the car in the back or the villa on the screen, it was all calm without the slightest ripple. Did you succeed? Senior Great Saint. asked Song Qingshu. The goateed old Taoist narrowed his eyes and said in an old-fashioned tone, "Heh, they're dead for sure. It takes time for the invisible spiritual pressure to descend, just wait patiently." Song Qingshu, another 30 seconds, from the surveillance feed, Song Qingshu realized that something wasn't quite right. For some reason, he felt that the goateed old Taoist's head was a lot bigger than before. Was it because the peripheral nerves at the base of his legs had died, causing his head to swell? Song Qingshu was alarmed. "Senior Great Saint, what's wrong?" The goateed old Taoist, "I'm cosplaying as Big Head Son. If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense." As soon as he said this, the goateed old Taoist's expression finally changed, and he spat out a huge mouthful of blood. The goateed old Taoist clutched his chest, his face trembling. At that moment, the head of the 10 saints had already swollen to the size of 3 watermelons. "This is the blood shadow divine skill. I can spray blood to kill enemies. Let me perform for you to broaden your horizons." Song Qingshu. Chapter 119. There were many types of backlash. The Cultivation Encyclopedia Science section divided the backlash into 5 regular levels based on its destructive power. According to Song Qingshu's judgment, the goateed Taoist's backlash had already reached level 4. The backlash's spiritual pressure had gathered in his body and was unable to be released. Moreover, the goateed Taoist had circulated his qi to resist it, causing the spiritual pressure to rush to the top of his head, causing his head to swell. If he didn't seek medical attention in time, it was very likely that he would enter a persistent vegetative state. That was what the secular world often called a vegetable. Compared to soul formation cultivators, no matter how shallow Song Qingshu's experience was, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. No matter how much he feigned ignorance in front of these people, they could see that the goateed Taoist had suffered a backlash. The spiritual pressure condensed by the heaven and earth spirit awakening formation had been reflected back at him. Moreover, this kind of backlash only affected the master of the formation. Song Qingshu was horrified. Good heavens, even this could be reflected back at him. Who on earth was that youth in the villa? Before Song Qingshu could recover from his shock, the goateed Taoist had already collapsed in the carriage behind him. He was foaming at the mouth, and began to mutter gibberish. "Not good. It's the spiritual pressure backlash. Quick, what level of backlash is this?" The people on the side all gathered around him, and the light of the heaven and earth spirit awakening formation quickly dimmed, collapsing on its own. Second Saint frowned, and after probing it with his spiritual sense, he was stunned. "Oh no! It's level 4. Hearing this, the other 8 saints were also dumbfounded. Soon after, they lowered their heads and revealed expressions of unbearable pain. They couldn't be any clearer about what level 4 meant. Although this wasn't enough to kill him, there was a 90% chance that he would become a vegetable in the future. Even if he could wake up, his cultivation would be greatly reduced. Furthermore, it was very likely that he would never be able to cultivate again. For a cultivator who had once possessed a powerful realm, becoming a cripple who couldn't cultivate was even scarier. This was even scarier than death. After a long period of silence, there was suddenly a wave of anguished wailing in the rather quiet carriage. Who would have thought that this mission, which they had been determined to complete, would cause the 10 saints' reputation to cease to exist? The fellow disciples hugged the goateed Taoist's leg and began to weep. "Eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother, wake up. Eldest senior brother, your Kings of Glory ranking is just a little bit away from becoming a king." Second Saint put his arm around the goateed old Taoist's shoulders and held his aged hands tightly. "Eldest senior brother. We brothers are of one mind. You must hold on. Please be strong and live on." The goateed old Taoist narrowed his eyes and raised his hand with great effort. I'm I'm not dead yet. As long as, each of you, transfer 10% of your cultivation to me, I think I can still be saved." In the front of the limousine, Song Qing-shu and his subordinate in a suit choked with emotion as they watched. The scene of the two brothers working together to face the calamity together was too touching. Song Qing-shu had always been a person who didn't cry much. Just as he was about to burst into tears, Second Saint, who was still holding the goateed old Taoist, stretched out his hand. He slowly placed it on the goateed old Taoist's neck. Afterward, she directly strangled him to death. Song Qing-shu and the man in the suit were stunned. "Senior Second Saint, your..." Second Saint shook his head in pain. "I'm helping eldest senior brother escape the abyss of suffering. Even if I save him, he's destined to be a cripple in the future." But Senior Great Saint said that as long as each of you transfers 10% of your cultivation. Second Saint, Director Song, can you believe the nonsense of a dying man on his deathbed? Song Qing-shu glanced at the image on the monitor. Before the Great Saint had died, he had opened his eyes wide and glared unwaveringly at his second junior brother. He had never expected that the person who would send him to hell in the end would actually be his fellow disciple. Song Qing-shu was speechless for a long time. This was clearly King Unjust Death. This was supposed to be a touching scene of fellow brothers fighting to the death, but in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a tragic drama of brothers fighting each other. Now, Song Qing-shu felt like his head was hurting. He already had no idea how to write his final battle report. Eldest senior brother, rest in peace. With a flip of his hand, Second Saint closed the goateed old Taoist's eyelids. "Don't worry, I'll definitely avenge you. Song Qing-shu. You were the one who King choked him to death." On the side, his fellow disciples were still wiping away their tears. "Second senior brother, you don't have to blame yourself. Eldest senior brother's spirit in heaven will definitely understand." Second Saint clenched his fists and stood up, his blue Taoist robes fluttering in a turbulent wave of spiritual pressure. "Brothers and sisters. Eldest senior brother is already gone. The sorrow of the past can't stop us from taking revenge." As soon as he said this, there was a round of enthusiastic applause from all around, and his fellow disciples' eyes were brimming with tears. In the end, Third Saint calmed himself down and spoke on behalf of the others. "We, the 10 saints, have never been lonely since we began our cultivation. Now that eldest senior brother is gone, we will naturally listen to second senior brother's arrangements." "All right." Second Saint nodded. As he spoke, he recited a spell and a purple light surged from his hand. Instantly, the goateed old Taoist storage bag responded, and a thick and powerful Buddhist staff flew out into Second Saint's hand. Second Saint slammed the Buddhist staff into the ground, and a terrifying spiritual pressure swept out in all directions. A thick aura of the ghost Tao enveloped the entire area, making it hard for everyone to breathe. The other 8 saints were shocked as they cried out, "The night ghost staff!" Song Qing-shu stared at the image on the monitor, his heart pounding like a raging wave. This was because the night ghost's weapon had been personally forged by Immortal Shipai, but because it was too evil, Immortal Shipai had sealed it away. It was a first-class immortal artifact, and not only was it extremely powerful, it also had a special function. Moreover, it also had a special function. After the death of each owner of the Night Ghost Scepter, their soul would be devoured by the Night Ghost Scepter, strengthening the power of the Ghost Tao. It could stack up to 10 layers. This allowed it to unleash power that surpassed that of an immortal artifact. Back then, after Master found this Night Ghost staff, he passed it on to eldest senior brother before he died. Now, eldest senior brother is dead, and his soul has fused with this Night Ghost staff. Today, I am the third owner of this Night Ghost staff. I will take the place of eldest senior brother's will and avenge him. No matter who your young man is, I will cut off his head today. I will use his blood to water Big Brother's tombstone. After saying this, Second Saint gripped the Buddhist staff and cried out softly, "Ghost, come." The monk's staff paused on the ground, and a green-faced ghost general, invisible to the naked eye, quickly condensed in the void. Each of the ghost general's fangs was as thick as an elephant's tusk, and it was 4 meters tall. At the front of the cockpit, Song Qing-shu and the man in a suit next to him felt their bodies tremble, and they couldn't muster up any strength. Both of them felt as if they were being held down by a ghost. Then, Second Saint pointed the Buddhist staff and locked onto the villa with his spiritual consciousness. The ghost general immediately bared its fangs and pounced in the direction of the villa with a fierce look on its face. Even though it was huge, it was extremely fast. Wherever it passed, the ground caved in, and all the flowers and grass wilted in an instant. Inside the car, Song Qing-shu and 9 saints were watching. But very quickly, they discovered a frightening fact, because the ghost general which had been charging toward grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa had actually turned back halfway. In contrast to its ferocious expression when it had charged over earlier, this ghost general's expression was clearly one of terror. It was as if it had run into some prehistoric beast, and was so scared that it shrank back into the night ghost staff without even saying a word. No one had expected the power of Ghost Dao to be released, and instead, it had returned the way it had come. The tremendous power of Ghost Dao crashed into the night ghost staff, shaking Second Saint so much that he convulsed hysterically as if he had been electrocuted. Second Saint gritted his teeth with a pained expression. When everyone came back to their senses, they saw that the 5 fingers on Second Saint's right hand which had been holding the staff had already been smashed to pieces by the residual power of the Buddhist staff, and his entire right hand was bleeding profusely. As the night ghost staff lost its support, it crashed to the ground with a crash, and everyone saw Second Saint's head grow bigger and bigger. In front of the monitor, Song Qing-shu was alarmed. "Senior Second Saint, what's wrong?" Second Saint looked at his right hand which had already lost 5 fingers. "I'm cosplaying Doraemon. If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense." As soon as he said this, Second Saint spat out a mouthful of blood with a splutter. Second Saint resisted the impact of the Ghost Dao on his body. At that moment, the head of this second senior brother, who had just become the leader, was already as big as 4 watermelons. Earlier, eldest senior brother didn't perform the blood shadow divine technique thoroughly enough. "Let me show you again." Song Qing-shu. Chapter 120. Wang Ling looked calmly at the ghost general who had charged at him viciously and then turned to run away as if it had seen a ghost. The Wang family's small villa was on the outskirts of East Wang Road, where there had once been a lot of wandering ghosts, but they had all been scared off by Wang Ling. Wang Ling remembered that the last time a ghost had charged at him like this, its spirit body had long since been reduced to ashes. It could only be said that this ghost general was lucky. It hadn't been scared off by Wang Ling, but by the fighting lion crouching next to him. After about 10 minutes of drawing talismans, Wang Ling had already made all kinds of enhancement talismans, which he then wrapped around the fighting lion like a landlady's plastic hair curlers. This was a fighting lion that had already been enhanced to a godly level by Wang Ling. With a full 20 enhancement talismans, the fighting lion's entire body was shrouded in all kinds of talisman light. Coupled with the talisman's special halo effect, when the ghost general rushed into the villa, it was almost blinded by this brilliant light. And so, after a full 3 seconds of silence, the ghost general decided to leave first. Damn it. A strengthened fighting lion with 20 points. What the hell was there to fight? And then, there was this scene in the car. In the RV, Third Saint supported Second Saint's limp body as everyone lowered their heads in pain. They had both suffered from the backlash, but the backlash from the power of the Ghost Dao was clearly more powerful than the backlash from spiritual pressure, and was at level 5 in lethality. There was no unnecessary struggle. After spitting out his last mouthful of blood, Second Saint fell to the ground. Blood sprayed all over Third Saint's face. Looking at the monitor image, Song Qingshu gritted his teeth in anger. Today's mission is a failure, it's over. All of this was too strange. From the surveillance footage, it had just been a teenager. Even Song Qingshu didn't understand what had happened. In the short 10 minutes since the start of the attack, the Grand Ten Saints had actually lost 2 of their top generals. It was clear that a blind attack was ineffective. They had no idea what on earth that teenager was capable of. The best strategy Song Qingshu could think of now was to retreat in order to advance. Fourth junior brother. Third Saint stood up, looked at the Taoist in pink next to him, and handed him the Night Ghost staff. Take this Buddhist staff. From now on, you will lead the other 6 junior brothers. Everyone stared at the third saint. They already knew what this Taoist was thinking. The pink-robed Taoist took the staff. I'll listen to third senior brother's instructions. Third saint stared at the monitor, then at Song Qingshu, who was in the driver's seat. Director Song, the failure of this mission isn't your fault. First, we underestimated the enemy. Second, we stubbornly went our own way. When you return, please report this to the castle lord. We, the 10 sages, are very sorry for failing this mission. Song Qingshu was silent for a moment. Has senior third saint already made up his mind? Eldest senior brother and second senior brother both died a violent death, and I have decided to avenge them. Third saint nodded. If I succeed in my revenge, I will bring the stone ghost mask back to you. If that doesn't work, then please find my body and bury me, eldest brother and second brother in Jiangnan. That's the hometown where we once cultivated together. All right, I understand. Song Qingshu sighed. Third saint opened the door of the carriage and finally got out. His white Taoist robe fluttered in the wind, and he carried an immortal sword with awe-inspiring killing intent. Before he left, Third Saint seemed to think of something, and he turned his head to look behind him. From now on, there may only be 7 of the 10 sages left, and they will no longer exist. Fellow brothers, come up with a resounding new name. After that, the junior brothers fell into meditation. Only Song Qingshu said weakly, as if inspired by this, Senior Third Saint, what do you think of the 7 freaks of Jiangnan? Third Saint, in life, if you're not on the street, you're on the road to failure. Wang Ling felt that this was a pretty good explanation for the 10 sages. It was very easy for people in high positions to be blinded by a single leaf. They could see the leaves but forget the forest, see the river but forget the sea. Over the years, the 10 sages' success rate in carrying out missions had always been perfect. They had established a good reputation in the industry, but this time, this record had been broken. The reason was that they had no idea what kind of iron plate they had kicked. The reason why Third Saint had chosen to stay was firstly for revenge, and secondly for investigation. At that moment, it was already evening. Outside the villa, the 7 soul formation cultivators had already left, leaving Third Saint alone. Immortal sword in hand, he approached grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa in Wenxian Garden step by step. His white clothes fluttered in the wind as he held his sword, his killing intent awe-inspiring. The security captain on duty at the gate thought this person was a little unfamiliar, and walked forward anxiously. Staring at Third Saint's kind eyes, he swallowed with difficulty and smiled apologetically. May I ask if this gentleman is the owner of this place, or is he here to pay a visit? Third Saint's face was stiff. I'm here to look for an old friend. Security captain. Who would look for an old friend with a sword in hand? But it was obvious that this wasn't to compare notes on cooking. The security captain was a little nervous. Although the security guard on duty at Wenxian Garden didn't have a high realm, he was still a cultivator. Third Saint's murderous aura was really too obvious, and the security captain already smelled trouble. Sir, if you're here to pay a visit, please tell us the villa number, we have to confirm it with the owner. Third Saint pointed at the villa in the distance. Haven't you noticed that there's something wrong with that villa? The security captain looked in the direction Third Saint was pointing, and was instantly stunned. Wasn't this the King villa of that great death-courting senior? Looking at the Taoist in white in front of him, no matter how stupid the security captain was, he knew that this person was most likely here for revenge. The security captain panicked and broke out in a cold sweat. Sir, don't act recklessly, Third Saint, that villa is clearly built illegally. I believe you'll find it a lot more pleasing to the eye after I tear it down with my sword. The security captain, Sir, who on earth are you? Third Saint stared at the security guard and said two words in a heavy tone, lay phone. Completely ignoring the security captain's attempts to stop him, Third Saint strode into the villa with a golden saber. As for the security captain at the gate, he had already been knocked down by Third Saint's spiritual pressure, and was directly foaming at the mouth as he fell to the ground, twitching. This security guard was very lucky that he hadn't become a ghost under Third Saint's sword. Now, Third Saint's heart was filled with a vengeful rage, and he didn't immediately take the security guard's life. If this security captain had taken out his weapon, the result might have really been tragic. When Third Saint reached the entrance, he realized that the villa's main door was already open. Then, the youngster whom the great heaven and earth spirit perception array had monitored earlier slowly walked out. The moment Third Saint saw him, he was a little stunned. Because this youngster was wearing an azure school uniform. This person was actually a student. Chapter 121. Third Saint felt that he had seen this azure school uniform somewhere before. After staring at Wang Ling's somewhat childish face for a moment, it was as if a string had been pulled out of his brain, and he suddenly remembered that this uniform had been on the news not long ago. This was the uniform of number 60 high school in Peiyuan district. It had originally been an unknown, ordinary high school. If it hadn't been for the fact that Shadow Stream's first-class Red Ribbon assassins had been completely wiped out here, Third Saint felt that he wouldn't care about this school at all. Previously, Third Saint remembered that he had read about it on the news broadcast. After carefully recalling the details, Third Saint was suddenly a little stunned to realize that this school seemed to have become quite famous recently. The annihilation of Shadow Stream's Red Ribbon assassins and the capture of a female Gold Ribbon assassin seemed to have something to do with this school, and now, the youngster standing in front of him was wearing this school's uniform. Third Saint suddenly felt afraid. After all, there was no direct evidence that Great Saint and Second Saint's deaths from the backlash had anything to do with this youngster, right? Perhaps there was some big shot in the cultivation world hidden in this villa that even the heaven and earth spirit perception array couldn't detect. Was he afraid? That didn't exist. He had been through hundreds of battles all these years, and had seen all kinds of storms. Back then, in order to comprehend the Tao of the soul formation stage, he had copied old Demon Wang's methods and opened a wood-carving shop to carve airplane cups. Back then, this kid hadn't even been born yet. This was just a youngster in an ordinary high school uniform. It was nothing, there was nothing to be afraid of, Third Saint comforted himself continuously in his heart. Standing at the door, Wang Ling was a little speechless as he listened to this old Taoist in white's intense mental activity. Just as he was wondering why this old Taoist still hadn't made a move, he saw spirit light flash in the other party's hand as he threw out a wine gourd, which he gulped down several mouthfuls of. Wang Ling's heart trembled. Could this be the legendary, wine strengthens a coward's courage? What kind of fear was there in front of Wang Ling? Third Saint felt that it was hard to accurately describe it in words. There was no spiritual pressure, no other means, and he couldn't even sense the other party's spiritual senses probing him. Just face to face, the divinity transformation stage cultivator had already lost the aggressive killing intent that he had when he arrived. He felt an extreme sense of crisis and had to boost his courage with alcohol. Wang Ling glanced at the wine gourd in the old Taoist in white's hand. This gourd contained an 82-year-old emboldening wine, which was very popular in the cultivation world nowadays. It was originally used by the cultivators of the older generation to fight against the demon race that escaped from the Gate Between Worlds, and it tasted very good. Although the Gate Between Worlds hadn't appeared for a long time, the tradition of drinking alcohol to boost one's courage before a battle had been imperceptibly passed down. Originally, this was supposed to be drunk when fighting a strong enemy. But the white-clothed old Taoist would never have thought that such an ordinary-looking, dead fish-eyed, paralyzed youth would actually bring him such a sense of terror. A gourd of wine entered his stomach, and a drunken blush appeared on the old Taoist's face. "I'm going." A sword stabbed at Wang Ling head-on, and before the blade arrived, silver sword chi whistled through the air. Such overbearing sword chi was powerful enough to kill anyone below the soul formation stage, and there was no need for the tip of the sword to touch the body. The sword chi alone was enough to kill him. The old Taoist in white had good eyesight. If this youngster really was just a foundation establishment high school student, his sword would definitely cut the other party into pieces in an instant. Although the 10 sages all cultivated the Ghost Dao, each of them had their own magic tools. Some practiced with hammers, some practiced with axes, and some practiced with soap. As for the old Taoist in white, the 3 sages practiced with swords. Wang Ling instantly recognized that this was the 3 Lives sword art, which had been created by one of the 10 founding generals, Blade Master General Yi. This sword art was divided into 3 techniques: copper, silver, and gold. Copper focused on defense, gold focused on offense, and silver focused on both offense and defense. It was very obvious that Third Saint didn't cultivate a gold sword or a copper sword, but a silver sword. Wang Ling didn't move, and just stood where he was, blinking hard. The old Taoist in white was startled by this youngster's action. Was he making eyes at him? Could it be that this guy was King Gay? But very quickly, he abruptly realized that he was wrong. Because before the silver sword chi he had thrust out could get close to the youngster, it actually froze in midair. Whether it was the sword chi or the blade, they were both blocked by an extremely powerful force, and couldn't advance any further. At that moment, Third Saint suddenly recalled the youngster's blinking. It turned out that it wasn't a useless move. Instead, this youngster was using the strong wind created by his eyelashes to neutralize his sword art. Just by blinking his eyes, the strong wind created by his eyelashes had the power to resist the power of Third Saint's sword art, F***K. There was this kind of operation. Third Saint instantly felt as if his entire world had been struck by lightning. 2,000 years of cultivation had been completely F***king wasted in a dog's stomach. To make matters worse, Third Saint was stunned to realize that he actually couldn't use his sword art to resist the strong wind created by this youngster's eyelashes. That invisible wave was pushing the silver blade back at him, and by the time he reacted and was about to withdraw his sword art, it was already too late. Under the powerful invisible wave created by the eyelashes, this silver blade actually changed direction and came back at him with an unstoppable force. This counterattack was actually even fiercer than the sword chi he had thrust out. Third Saint had no time to react at all. His face turned pale with fright, and his entire person was terrified to the extreme. Who the hell was this youngster? Fortunately, Third Saint's reaction was godly. Using all his strength to control his sword, he broke his right hand first, and at the cost of his arm, he forcibly changed the direction of this unstoppable force. The vast wave rushed into the sky, directly scattering the clouds in the firmament. The originally cloudy sky was actually cleared by this impact, and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. Wang Ling was still standing there as he straightened his school uniform, which had been slightly creased by the wind created by the sword chi. The old Taoist in white thought that Wang Ling was going to attack again, and was so frightened that he retreated several dozen meters. A few seconds later, the old Taoist in white spat out a mouthful of blood, which soaked his clothes. Although he had changed the direction of the attack, the residual power had still caused him internal injuries from the backlash. Fortunately, he had reacted in time, and the lethality of the backlash this time was only at level 2, which wasn't too serious. At that moment, the old Taoist in white still had lingering fear in his heart. Just the wave created by the lifting of his eyelashes had actually caused such an earth-shattering result. If he hadn't reacted so quickly, he would have already met his eldest senior brother and second senior brother, killing the enemy in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the old Taoist in white was pale with fright. This youngster's realm was far above that of the 10 saints. Even if another 100 soul formation cultivators came, they still might not be his match. Recalling the violent wave created by the blink of an eye just now, the old Taoist in white felt that this move seemed a little familiar. Legend had it that the #1 killer on the international ranking list, Teacher Killer, who was called Killer Taoist, had this unparalleled divine ability to kill the enemy in the blink of an eye. Could it be, this was that senior Killer Taoist? But why was this senior wearing a school uniform? Could it be that he also had a cosplay hobby? F***K. This great senior was his idol. Clutching his broken arm, the Taoist in white, who was drenched in blood, looked at Wang Ling and asked a little shyly, "Senior Killer Taoist, is that you? Can I have your autograph?" Chapter 122. Facing the old Taoist in white, Wang Ling took 5 seconds to compose his thoughts, and with great difficulty, he came to a conclusion. This third saint had mistaken him for someone else. Teacher Shah, whose Taoist name was Killer Taoist, was ranked #1 on the international killer ranking list. This wasn't the first time Wang Ling had heard of this. The last time was when that 36D Shadow Stream girl had attempted to invade number 59 high school. Looking at the old Taoist in white, who seemed to have forgotten all his hatred, Wang Ling was instantly at a loss for words. Who knew that when he blinked, he would be mistaken for Killer Taoist's unique technique, and, what the hell was this old Taoist's bashful expression, like that of an inexperienced little girl, after confirming that he was Killer Taoist? WTF? Could it be that this guy was actually gay? He didn't want this twist at all. Seeing that Wang Ling didn't say anything, Third Saint was reassured and took it as Wang Ling's tacit approval. He was as excited as a primary school student about to go on a spring excursion. His smile was like a brilliant chrysanthemum. "Senior Killer Taoist. So it really is you. Wang Ling, I've long heard of Senior's divine skill of killing enemies in the blink of an eye. Seeing for myself is indeed better than hearing about it." The white-robed old Taoist sighed, feeling somewhat ashamed of his inferiority. Wang Ling looked at the old Taoist's severed arm, which was still bleeding. Due to the aftershock of the previous attack and the old Taoist in white's excitement just now, the wound was gushing blood like a fountain. With this amount of blood loss, it was only at the level of a soul formation cultivator. If it was any other person, they would have died a long time ago. "Senior, are you worried about my injuries?" "Don't worry, this little wound is nothing. This is all the result of my inferior skills." Wang Ling stared at the old Taoist in white and really wanted to say, "You're thinking too much." The old Taoist took out the medicinal powder that he carried with him and sprinkled it on the wound. The bleeding stopped very quickly. But the pain of his severed arm and the excitement he felt after confirming that Wang Ling was Killer Taoist made the old Taoist's face turn red and white like a flower, which was as strange as it could get. "Although we are acting on orders this time, if we knew that Senior Killer Taoist was here, we wouldn't have been able to escape. We will absolutely not make a move. Brutality has always been the belief of us, the 10 Saints. Only those who are more brutal than us are worth learning from. Back when Senior Killer Taoist was all-powerful in the cultivation world, we were just little saplings crying piteously for food." The old Taoist's eyes glistened as he spoke, and he couldn't help but cry. Wang Ling, these tears were real, and so was his lament. Wang Ling knew that these were the old Taoist's heartfelt words. If there was the slightest hint of falsehood, Wang Ling's mind-reading ability would immediately detect it. Faced with an enemy who had completely lost his killing intent and the ability to fight at the same time, and who could only sigh with emotion, Wang Ling knew that it was unlikely that he would be able to make a move. What he found most strange was that up until now, he had never clearly expressed his stance on the plot. It was all the wishful thinking of the old Taoist in white. Moreover, it was obvious that the white-robed old Taoist had completely sunk into his own infinite imagination, completely unable to extricate himself. Eldest senior brother and second senior brother died in vain. If they knew that senior killer Taoist was here, I don't think they would have made a move. Listening to the old Taoist in white's account, Wang Ling frowned. To be honest, the current situation was giving him a headache. Maybe if he had simply gotten rid of this bunch of people from the very beginning, and then thrown the blame to grenade-throwing senior immortal, then there wouldn't have been so many problems. But Wang Ling really rarely killed people. He would only do so when there was a real threat to him. This was what Father and Mother Wang had taught him since he was young. He was born with great power to protect himself, not to wantonly trample on life. Otherwise, what was the difference between him and those protagonists in novels who killed people indiscriminately just to feel good? After killing this third saint, there would be fourth saint and then fifth saint who would come to make trouble for him one after another. Wang Ling's frown was actually because he felt that there had to be a more satisfactory solution to this matter than simply and crudely killing people. At that moment, third saint's voice rang out again. "Senior, are you still worried about the stone ghost mask?" Wang Ling raised his head and looked seriously at the old Taoist in white, wanting to hear the other party's attitude. The old Taoist in white smiled. "Don't worry, Senior, we won't fight for the stone ghost mask again. When I go back this time, I will explain the situation to them. Even if I have to defy the Lord of the Castle's orders, I won't participate in the operation to seize the stone ghost mask again." These words were very sincere, and Wang Ling didn't catch any loopholes in them, so he nodded in satisfaction. Seeing Wang Ling nod, third saint knew that the other party wasn't angry, and heaved a huge sigh of relief. "After this matter is over, I will choose to retire and never participate in any disputes again. Consider it a little self-punishment for offending Senior." After saying this, he clutched his broken arm and bowed to Wang Ling. "This time, we have really offended you. Please forgive us, Senior." Wang Ling. He had killed two of the enemy's generals through a backlash, and in the end, they had turned around and apologized to him. At this point, Wang Ling already didn't know what to say. Now, Wang Ling's mood was very complicated. "Third saint, since that's the case, I won't disturb Senior any longer, but before I leave, can Senior agree to a small request of mine?" Wang Ling was puzzled, ? There was a flash of spirit light in the old Taoist's left hand, and a marker pen instantly appeared. He handed it to Wang Ling, then slowly turned around and pointed at his back. "Senior, please give me your autograph here." After thinking for a bit, Wang Ling finally took off the cap of the pen and wrote 4 words, "Devoted to serving the country, signed, Killer Taoist, 2. When the curtains fell on this chaotic situation, Wang Ling withdrew his clone, and grenade-throwing senior immortal had already returned from the parent-teacher conference on behalf of Father and Mother Wang. The security captain at the door had already woken up, and the white foam at the corners of his mouth had already dried up. When he saw grenade-throwing senior immortal return, he immediately grabbed his sleeve and said in a daze, "Senior immortal. Senior immortal, be careful. Some Lei Feng said he's coming to tear down your house." Grenade-throwing senior immortal. When he got home, grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't help being shaken when he saw the fighting lion covered in special effects. What had happened in the last 2 hours? After checking the storage of cinnabar in the villa, grenade-throwing senior immortal instantly wanted to cry but had no tears to shed, because Wang Ling had actually used up all of it. There wasn't even a speck left. He had mixed the cinnabar with black dust powder, and based on the current market value of black dust powder, Wang Ling's talisman drawing had instantly cost him at least 1 million yuan. This was definitely Wang Ling's bad taste. Chapter 123. Everything was over. The 10 Saints incident had come to an end. For Mo Immortal Castle, the 10 Saints should be the strongest lineup they could bring out at the moment. Not only had they lost 2 of their top generals, they were also in danger of 3rd Saint, who had decided to retire from the martial arts world, turning against them at any time. In a short period of time, it was obviously impossible to organize another large-scale operation to seize the stone ghost mask. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could take advantage of this time to happily continue looking for the whereabouts of the mask maker. When Wang Ling withdrew his clone, his real body was already on the way home. Feeling the mental strength he had spread out return, Wang Ling's gloomy mood instantly improved a lot. Wang Ling felt that this was one of the major drawbacks of the Great Separation spell. For him, the clones he sent out weren't just pure energy. This energy contained too many things, including realm, strength, and mood, so he usually avoided using the Great Separation spell. That was because this spell would only make his already paralyzed face even more paralyzed. When Wang Ling returned home, he noticed that there was one more person in the house today. Even without using his spiritual senses, he knew that it was Lai Mengmeng. The pair of white rabbit slippers had disappeared. These were special slippers that Father Wang had prepared for Lai Mengmeng. Today, Lai Mengmeng was here for a follow-up consultation with Grandfather Wang. After meeting Teacher Pan during the home visit, the old man was clearly in better spirits than usual. The knot in his heart had been untied, and everything was at ease. But Father Wang was still a little worried, so he called Lai Mengmeng over to help take a look. Thus, a certain someone had unceremoniously run over to freeload off a meal in the name of a follow-up consultation. On the sofa, the old man held Lai Mengmeng's hand, his face full of gratitude. "Little Song, we'll have to trouble you again this time." These simple words were enough to set Lai Mengmeng and Father Wang's hearts at ease. Because the old master didn't call the wrong name this time. Based on this point alone, Lai Mengmeng believed that even if his Alzheimer's disease hadn't been cured, it would at least be alleviated quite a bit. "Grandpa Wang, you're too polite. Next, I'll ask you some questions." As he spoke, Lai Mengmeng took out a stack of paper from his backpack. These were some of the questions Lai Mengmeng had collected about Alzheimer's. There were yes or no questions, multiple choice questions, and brain teasers. The old man nodded cooperatively. "Okay, Little Song. Ask away." Lai Mengmeng, first question, when eating scrambled eggs with tomatoes, do you often worry about whether to eat the tomatoes or the eggs first? The old man shook his head. Lai Mengmeng noted it down and then asked, "Chocolate-flavored tea or shit-flavored chocolate, which would you choose?" The old man pondered for a moment, then suddenly asked, "All chocolates contain sugar, right?" Lai Mengmeng nodded. "Yes." The old man, "Then my blood sugar is high, I can't eat either." Lai Mengmeng, also, how can you ask this kind of question to the elderly? Nowadays, many elderly people have diabetes. This kind of question is too unfriendly. Then let me change the question. Lai Mengmeng, "Grandpa Wang, may I ask under what circumstances 1 + 1 = 2? The old man stared at Lai Mengmeng as if he was looking at a retard. "Of course it's 2 if the calculation is correct." "I say, Little Song, can you not use the questions from the Spring Festival Gala 30 years ago to test me? Although I'm old, I'm not stupid, okay? Your questions are too old." Lai Mengmeng, the old man stared at Lai Mengmeng and criticized him. "I find that young people nowadays don't take a long-term view of problems. Little Song, it's wrong for you to be entangled in the past and not think about making progress. Can't you develop a question that's at a higher level? If young people don't keep up with the times, how can they find a girlfriend and make her like them? By the way, little song, it seems you don't have a girlfriend yet, right? No, no girlfriend. Lai Meng Meng suddenly felt the urge to cover his face and run away in tears. After this question and answer session, Father Wang, who was next to him, could now confirm two things. First, the old man's dementia had already been completely cured. That glib-tongued Casanova from back then was back again. Second, after his face-to-face conversation with Grandfather Wang just now, Lai Mingming's pure, young man's heart, which had yet to taste the honey of first love, had suffered an unprecedented and painful blow from the old man. After dinner, Wang Ling just happened to catch the broadcast of Cultivation of the People's Justice. Wang Ling hadn't used the small TV in his bedroom for a long time. If it wasn't for the little raccoon lucky draw this time, Wang Ling felt that he would never be able to unlock the dark seal on the TV. That was because it would be more convenient for him to use his wristwatch to directly participate in the program and scan the code for the lucky draw. Nowadays, anything could be obtained through a wristwatch. Old people's products like the TV, which had already been phased out, could only be used for Grandfather Wang to watch Love in the Country. Early in the morning on Tuesday, May 25th, Wang Ling was in a gloomy mood this morning, because as a die-hard little raccoon fan, he hadn't even won an encouragement prize in the lucky draw last night. How infuriating. Wang Ling felt that something like the lucky draw was just like the probability of strengthening equipment in Penguin Corporation's games. Even if there was a 90% success rate, there would still be repeated failures. When Wang Ling arrived in class, grade 1, class 3 was gossiping as usual in the morning. The topic of the second mock exam, which had lasted for several days, had temporarily died down, and yesterday's parent-teacher conference became the new topic of discussion. Dopey Gua, the master of gossip in class, shared the following information. I heard that there was a vote at yesterday's parent-teacher conference. Someone asked, what vote? Dopey Gua replied, our school is holding a school activity for each class to sing well. Yesterday, Teacher Pan had the parents recommend songs for us to vote on. Then we have to choose one of the top 3 songs as our class's song for the competition. Saying this, Master of Dopey threw out a piece of paper, which was Father Gua's notes from yesterday's parent-teacher conference. A large part of the notes was about the school selection for each class to sing well this time. Everyone gathered around to look at the notes, which clearly listed the songs that had been nominated. The first song was The Brightest Star in the Night Sky, which had been recommended by Li Xuanjing's dad, Li Gohai. Second was Running, which had been recommended by Super Chen's dad. Third was A Little Apple, which had been chosen by Little Peanut's dad, Big Nut. Everyone nodded when they saw this, feeling that these song titles really reflected the parents' personalities. Of course, apart from these 3 songs, there were also several other recommended songs that hadn't been nominated. For example, Songs of the East Wind, which had been recommended by Feather Lin's mom. With one look, it was clear that Mother Lin was definitely a senior sect leader among the Fujoshi. Another example was Master of Dopey's father, Father Gua, who had chosen H, which indirectly reflected the father and son's flirtatious nature. Sure enough, like father, like son. Following the notes on the list to the end, everyone realized that there was actually another recommended song on the list that hadn't received any votes. No one actually voted for this song. Even the song H got a vote. Someone asked, who recommended it? Wang Lei. Wang Ling knew right away that this was definitely an alias the grenade-throwing senior immortal had come up with on the fly. Super Chen had a flash of inspiration. Wang Lei. Is that classmate Wang Ling's father? After all, there was only one student with the surname Wang in the class. What song did he recommend? Pomp and Circumstance. As soon as he said that, the whole class instantly fell into dead silence. Everyone turned to look at Wang Ling and couldn't help sighing in their hearts. Who would have thought that under classmate Wang Ling's cold, expressionless exterior, he actually hid such a sultry heart. Chapter 124. It was May 26th on Wednesday in the 5th week of the semester. After Lai Mingming's follow-up visit last night, Father Wang could confirm that the old man's dementia was completely gone. The old man was still concerned about his vegetable field in the suburbs of the neighboring city, so he had left it in the care of Zhang San, who lived next door, as long as the vegetables in the field didn't die. Zhang San could harvest the ripe vegetables and sell them, and the money he earned from them would be Zhang San's own. But 2 hours before the old man was about to leave on his tricycle, something big happened in the Wang family. Mother Wang had been groped on the subway on her way home from grocery shopping. It wasn't just as simple as being groped, but the pervert had also pushed her so hard that her forehead had hit a pillar and her scalp had been cut. The most infuriating thing was that when the pervert had gotten off the subway in a hurry, he had kicked Mother Wang and pointed at the crowd around them as he yelled at Mother Wang, "There are so many people watching, you slutty hussy deliberately wore so little, and you still want to frame me? In your dreams." There was a saying that the guilty party was the first to complain. This pervert had a tattoo on his arm, and he looked like a gangster. Plus, he had a rough and unruly appearance. For a moment, no one around them dared to stand up for Mother Wang. Mother Wang had never been a woman who took the initiative to stir up trouble. This was the first time that someone had pointed at her and scolded her for wearing revealing clothes in front of so many people. Mother Wang felt so aggrieved that she almost burst into tears. When she got home, Father Wang was so angry that his black-rimmed glasses fell off when he saw Mother Wang's bloodied head. The old man directly called the police. If there was a problem, the police were always right. This was the only cultivation police station within a radius of 50 li around East Wang Road, so it was usually very idle. Because there weren't many residents in the suburbs, there weren't even any cases of theft, which led to the police officers developing the very bad habit of laziness. From the time Mother Wang got home to the time the old man reported the case to the time the police arrived to take a statement, 2 hours had actually passed. It wasn't until Father Wang was a little impatient that the doorbell rang. He saw a police officer in uniform standing at the door with a small notebook in his hand. The police officer looked at Father Wang. "Was it your family who called the police?" Father Wang: "Yes, but it was my dad." The police officer glanced at the old man beside him. "And this is?" The old man nodded. "Yes, I was the one who called the police. I'm your grandpa." The policeman, the three of them sat down, and Mother Wang poured a glass of water for the policeman. The policeman took a look at the wound on Mother Wang's head. "Is this the victim?" The old man was very emotional. "Yes. This is my daughter. She was groped and beaten on the subway. Wait until you find out who it is. I'll definitely use the 18 sticky clothes fall technique to kill him." "Father Wang, the policeman, Uncle Wang, don't be so agitated." The policeman took out his police badge. "Look, my surname is also Wang. We're from the same family. Please believe that I can handle this problem for you." Father Wang and the old man looked at the police ID number on it, SB 12138. Officer Wang was a little embarrassed as he explained, "East Wang Road is in the north of Shanghai City. For short, it's called SB." The old man and Father Wang nodded cooperatively. "Very well, Officer Wang, if you have any questions, ask away." Officer Wang straightened his collar. "I have a lot of experience in handling cases. Our area receives 60 calls a year, and I'm responsible for handling half of them. Don't worry." After saying that, Officer Wang looked at Mother Wang. "I suggest you do a disability assessment first, or take a picture of the wound as evidence. This will be evidence in the future. But for now, let's take a statement. Madam Victim, do you remember the specific time? Mother Wang answered truthfully, it was between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, when I was on my way back from grocery shopping. It happened on the subway. Officer Wang nodded and made a few notes in his little notebook. He then raised his head. This is the rush hour after work. It's normal for buttocks to squeeze buttocks, right? Maybe the other party didn't do it on purpose. The old man took out a black iron kitchen knife he used from under the sofa. Officer Wang, fine, none of the above assumptions are valid. Then, could it be that this lady's clothes were a little too cold? The old man took out a whetstone from under the coffee table. Officer Wang, it's almost summer in Shanghai City, and it's stuffy and hot during the plum season. It's actually very normal to wear short sleeves. Officer Wang broke out in a cold sweat. Then, Madam Victim, apart from the bruise on your scalp, did you suffer any other injuries? Mother Wang, before the subway doors opened, that man kicked me in the arm. The old man continued, also, this dog leftover's mouth isn't clean, and it has an extremely bad influence on my daughter's mental health. Officer Wang nodded and stared at the little notebook in his hand. Let's sort out the whole story. Victim Madam Wang was on her way back from grocery shopping on the subway between 4 and 5 in the afternoon when she was molested by some burly tattooed man. He shoved her once, which indirectly caused her to bruise her scalp. When he got off the subway, he kicked Madam Wang's left arm and verbally attacked and insulted her. During this period, the subway was completely sealed off. The entire crime took less than 5 minutes, and the other party got off the subway. The situation is already very clear. Grandfather Wang, Officer Wang, what do you think? The experienced Officer Wang cupped his chin and nodded solemnly. Based on my many years of experience in handling cases, this should be a nasty case of subway groping in a secret room. Father Wang, Mother Wang and the old man, Officer Wang, if you insist on finding this man's chest, you have to go through the legal process. Father Wang, how exactly do we do this? Officer Wang, according to the normal procedure, Madam Wang was assaulted at East Wang North Road Station. So first of all, our local police station has to file a case and investigate it. Then, in conjunction with the Ministry of Urban Construction, we'll get subway surveillance footage and investigate the suspects one by one in the subway stations, which have millions of trips every day. Then, we have to go through the legal process: prosecution, first trial, second trial, Supreme Court. But based on my many years of experience in handling cases, this is actually quite difficult to handle. It won't be easy to lock onto the suspect. The subway traffic is really too high. Unless someone directly recorded it at the time of the crime. And even if we find the suspect, the whole process will take at least 3 years. Grandfather Wang was very stubborn. No matter how long the process takes, we have to file a lawsuit. However, the experienced Officer Wang spread his hands. I'm very sorry, sirs. At this point, if you insist on filing a lawsuit, then I can't do anything about it. I don't have the authority to file a case and investigate it. Father Wang, didn't you say you have a lot of experience? The experienced Officer Wang nodded solemnly. That's right, I do have a lot of experience as a temp. Father Wang. Chapter 125. There was a saying that it was better to rely on oneself than on others, and Father Wang felt that this saying was very appropriate in this situation. Of course, it was important to clarify that not all police officers were unreliable. It was just that the one Father Wang had run into this time was a little strange. In the end, this experienced Officer Wang was dragged away by Loopy Toad by his boot. At that moment, Wang Ling had just come home from school. He had just opened the door when he saw Loopy Toad unceremoniously dragging Officer Wang's boot out of the house. The experienced Officer Wang was flustered and exasperated as he shouted, "We, temporary workers, also have human rights. As soon as he said this, Loopy Toad used a divine dog tail swing at the man's foot, and then a dog punch directly hit his round belly. Then, Wang Ling saw this person's body, which weighed more than 200 kilograms, forcibly fly more than 20 meters away. In the end, his butt ended up in the air as he came to a stop in a very queer position. When Wang Ling entered the house, he found that the atmosphere in the Wang family's small villa was unusually low today. When he saw the injury on Mother Wang's forehead, Wang Ling's face swiftly darkened. The old man slapped his thigh. As soon as that brat came in, I knew he wasn't reliable. I didn't expect him to be so unreliable. Using a temporary worker to brush us off, is he playing with us like monkeys? Mother Wang comforted him on the side. Dad, let's forget about it. In any case, my injury isn't serious. At most, it's just a little grievance. In just a few seconds, Wang Ling had already used his mind-reading ability to understand the whole story. Very good. Taking advantage of the immortal king's mother, and still F*** king dared to hit people. You F*** king got yourself into big trouble. Wang Ling took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then, he used Memory Sketch to quickly draw a 3D portrait of that person from Mother Wang's memory. It was a slightly decorated young man with a mohawk hairstyle and a tattoo on his right arm. Staring at the paper, Mother Wang immediately identified it. Yes, Ling Ling's drawing is correct, it's this person. The old man nodded at the portrait, then turned to Wang Ling. Can you find this person? Father Wang, given the range of Ling Ling's spiritual senses, it won't be difficult to find this person in Songhai City. But I remember Ling Ling saying that spiritual sense is like a generator. The greater the coverage, the greater the power. The impact will probably cripple the entire power grid in Songhai City, right? Wang Ling lowered his head in tacit agreement. Because Father Wang was telling the truth. Forget it, leave the matter of finding him to me. After saying that, Father Wang took out a lighter, lit a cigarette with a snap, and put it in his mouth. He exhaled a long puff of smoke, and the light from his glasses obscured his somewhat gloomy eyes. As for how to deal with this mohawk head, Ling Ling, do as you see fit. However, you still have to abide by our Wang family's teachings, and under no circumstances should you kill him. It would be best if this guy was sent to the hospital. Lying down for the rest of his life. Mother****. You dare to touch my woman, you must be tired of living. The old man and Wang Ling both trembled. Father Wang had already turned completely evil. Actually, there were a lot of unfair things in society. Going back a few eras, in fact, ordinary people had even less right to speak, and when there were conflicts between cultivators, basically all the problems would be solved with a fight. Realm was king, and strength was respected. Strength represented everything. Now, in the spirit energy information era, both ordinary people and cultivators had legal checks and balances. But it had to be said that when it came to incidents like groping, the deterrent force of the law was clearly insufficient. Perhaps the vast majority of girls who encountered this kind of situation would choose to endure the disgust and get over it. Because the less trouble, the better. Of course, there were also girls like Mother Wang who bravely stood up and pointed out the pervert. But sometimes, this wasn't necessarily effective. A large part of the reason was the apathy of onlookers. They would rather stand on the side and take pictures and videos to join in on the fun than step forward and say a few words. The most hateful thing was that the keyboard warriors on the internet would also throw the blame to the female victims without distinguishing between right and wrong, scolding them for wearing too little. In the end, even if they called the police, the matter would often be left unsettled. As the experienced officer Wang had said, there was a lot of traffic in public places like subways and buses. If the pervert wasn't caught red-handed, it would be nonsense for the cultivation police to spend days and nights staring at the surveillance cameras to find the pervert. Even if the pervert was caught in the end, he would only be detained for 15 days. Furthermore, if the pervert was someone who had connections, he might be let out after going in for a cup of tea. Thus, most ordinary people would feel very depressed and helpless when dealing with this kind of incident. Unfortunately, the Mohawk head who had been groping this time had run into Wang Ling's family. This time, Father Wang insisted on taking over the job of finding the person and wouldn't let Wang Ling get involved. There were two main reasons for this. On one hand, Father Wang was considering the city he currently lived in. Father Wang felt that it really wasn't worth it for Wang Ling to risk the economic loss of the entire city's power grid to find a scumbag. On the other hand, Father Wang felt that as a man, it would be too cowardly of him to rely on his son to get back at his wife after she was bullied. It was just looking for a person, it wasn't that difficult. If one said that realm and strength were Wang Ling's weapon, but as an ordinary person without the slightest bit of spirit energy, Father Wang also had his own special methods. Before he could eat dinner, Father Wang had already started to get busy in his study as he logged onto his Weibo. Father Wang rarely went on Weibo, and his last message had been posted half a year ago. The reason why he didn't like Weibo was that there were 4 types of people who appeared on Father Wang's Weibo all year round. The first type, trolls. The second type, trolls who liked to follow the trend. The third type, trolls who urged updates. And the fourth type, trolls who liked to follow the trend. Of course, in terms of overall numbers, the third and fourth types were still the majority. Father Wang subconsciously looked at the verified tag on Weibo. The verified information was, Cultivation Reading Best-Selling Guru author Wang Situ. This was to coincide with the promotion of his novel, and the people from the Cultivation Reading camp had helped Father Wang verify it. Because he hadn't been on Weibo for a long time, when Father Wang logged on, the entire web page froze for 2 minutes because of the number of private messages. He glanced at the number of fans. Good lord. He hadn't been online for half a year, but his number of fans had actually increased by 1 million. Just half a year ago, Father Wang remembered that his Weibo fans had already broken 3 million, thanks to the website's operation. Now, it had actually increased by another 1 million. Father Wang didn't know how effective these 4 million fans would be. But given the current situation, he had to rely on the power of his Weibo fans to guide public opinion and find that hateful Mohawk head. Thus, the power of public opinion was the most powerful magic weapon that Father Wang could use as an internet celebrity among ordinary people. So, let's test the activity level first. Father Wang lit a cigarette, then quickly typed a string of words and posted his first Weibo post in half a year. Good evening, everyone. As soon as he sent the message, Father Wang instantly realized that the web page was unexpectedly frozen again. When the web page recovered, the number of likes on this Weibo post had actually already exceeded 1,000 in less than a minute. Then, a string of comments poured in. My God! Guru Wang Situ actually posted on Weibo. What Weibo post? Hurry up and write. You've only updated 1 chapter today. Please dress in women's clothes. I'll forgive you if you appear on camera as a woman. It really wasn't in vain for us trolls to wait on Weibo every day to catch authors. We finally caught one alive today. Chapter 126. Wang Ling had always felt that Father Wang's fans of his novels were very scary, and that there was a special kind of cohesiveness in them. It was like he had been born with this realm and had always been with Father Wang. Not only did Father Wang's Weibo account, which he hadn't taken care of for half a year, not only did his Weibo fans not decrease, there were actually so many people on the front line who liked and commented on Father Wang's account. It was to the extent that Father Wang's broken computer almost crashed. But this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Father Wang felt that it was time for him to display the power of his fans. After sorting out his thoughts and wording, Father Wang's fingers flew, and in a short 10 minutes, he swiftly published a long Weibo post titled Wang Situ in a Fury for a Beauty. At the bottom of the post, Father Wong attached a portrait drawn by Wong Ling using the profiling technique, which he had just taken with his wristwatch. The moment he clicked send, Father Wong felt like Li Yunlong, who had led millions of fans into Pingon District to rescue his wife. He was inexplicably hot-blooded and excited. Because of the long content, the number of comments and likes this time wasn't as fast as the previous greeting post on Weibo. However, 5 minutes later, Father Wong's computer started to freeze again. It could only be said that Father Wong was in the end Father Wong. As the #1 godly author on the Cultivation Reading Forum's bestseller list, this long Weibo post could be said to be as smooth as flowing water. Not only was it meticulous in thought and clear in its arguments, it also revealed a husband's helplessness as well as a heartless accusation against an indifferent society. The gist of this long Weibo post could be summed up in one sentence: brothers, my wife has been groped. What should we do? Countless comments came in like a swarm. Damn it. This mohawk head looks wretched, I didn't expect him to be so wretched as well. Is there any godly person who knows about human flesh? Human flesh, we must human flesh. I'm sorry, Guru Wong Situ. I shouldn't have scolded you because you haven't been updating well recently. I never thought you'd run into such a big problem. Repost and spread it for Guru Wong Situ. To be honest, Father Wong felt hot-blooded and even more touched when he saw these wishful thinking pleading for human flesh. Because this was the first time Father Wong had experienced the cohesiveness of his fans, apart from the fact that they subscribed to his novels. Wong Ling saw the number of likes, retweets and comments on Father Wong's long post on Weibo climb at a speed visible to the naked eye in just a short quarter of an hour. Nowadays, using Weibo was not the right of ordinary people. Many almighty cultivators also had the habit of browsing Weibo. And among Father Wong's fans, it wasn't just students who read novels to relieve stress after school. Very quickly, someone with a verified username, Exploding Sky sect leader Su K, who had more than 10 million fans, left a message for Father Wong and forwarded it to him. When I'm not cultivating, I always look for good novels on the Cultivation Reading Network to relax and calm my Dao heart. When I once encountered the most difficult bottleneck, I suddenly discovered that Guru Wong Situ's let go of that wet nurse had accompanied me through the final bottleneck. This was a very dedicated author. Now that Wong Situ's family is being bullied, I, as the leader of Exploding Sky Sect, am now officially announcing a Heavenly Dao bounty on Weibo. If any fellow cultivator can provide information on this vulgar man posted by Guru Wong Situ, I will offer a reward of 1 million HNY, directly transfer it online. In an instant, Weibo exploded once again. A Heavenly Dao bounty. How long had it been since anyone had heard of this term? Back when the ancient cultivation world had still been in a state of chaos where hundreds of schools of thought contended, the Heavenly Dao bounty had already existed. This was a special bounty that only a sect leader or pope had the authority to issue, and it would create a chain reaction in a short period of time. Once someone was wanted by this bounty, they would become the public enemy of all cultivators, and everyone would have the right to kill them. Looking at past records, in the ancient cultivation world, no one who was wanted by the Heavenly Dao bounty had ever survived. But now, because of the restrictions of the law, although the Heavenly Dao bounty wasn't recognized by the law, it was still an unwritten tradition left behind in the cultivation world. Now, although the people wanted by the Heavenly Dao bounty weren't dead, they were so valiant that they could even find information on 18 generations of your family's ancestors. There had always been a joke on the internet that if someone was wanted by the Heavenly Dao bounty now, they might even be able to clearly count the number of ashes in their urns. If one were to say that the Heavenly Law bounty order in the past was a kill order, then now, it was an ultimate and enhanced version of a human flesh search order. Thus, Wong Ling couldn't help sweating a little when he saw the message sent by the leader of Exploding Sky Sect. Because he felt that in some sense, this enhanced version of a human flesh search was even more terrifying than killing a person. Very quickly, Countless comments appeared under Exploding Sky Sex leader Sue Quebec. The big shot is here. I didn't expect the leader to also read Guru Wong Situ's novel. We're kindred spirits. I support the leader of Exploding Sky Sex righteous outspokenness. Capture the vulgar man alive. Justice for Guru Wong Situ's family. In just 1 hour, Wang Ling saw that Father Wang had completely taken over the trending topics on Weibo's trending search list due to the surging number of reposts. Top search, Wang Situ's fury for a beauty. Top search, Exploding Sky Sex leader issues a Heavenly Dao bounty. Top search, women guard against perverted hands. Just learned this trick. During this time, Wang Ling also used his wristwatch to refresh Weibo. In the Weibo comments section of the leader of Exploding Sky Sex, Heavenly Dao bounty, he saw a lot of acquaintances from the cultivation forums and chat groups. Bulang Blade Immortal, I support fellow Daoist Sue's righteous words on behalf of Guru Wong Situ. Guru Wong Situ's book is really good. I hope this matter can be resolved quickly so that Guru Wong Situ can update as soon as possible. Saliengenren, damn it. What is the cultivation police doing? Do they really think there's no one left in the cultivation world? He even dares to touch Guru Wong Situ's wife. If this old lady finds out this vulgar man's address, I'll personally come to his door with a sword and cut off that guy's apricot mushrooms. Lightning Dharmaraja, fellow Taoists, please calm down first. If you can catch this person, sending him to me for electrocution should be the most effective method. I support Guru Wong Situ's legal rights. I'll also take this opportunity to advertise my internet addiction center. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, I support fellow Daoist Su K. I especially like Guru Wong Situ's let go of that wet nurse. The 18 dragon subduing palms used by Zhuge Liang for a slam dunk is really too cool. Chapter 127. Grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't know that this all-powerful Guru Wong Situ and Father Wang were in fact the same person. If he knew that the target of his comments was the great senior, in the Wang family small villa, he would definitely regret it, but there were so many comments under Father Wang's long Weibo post that it was too much for the eyes to take in. The comments from the people in the cultivation forum didn't catch up with the first wave of popularity and were quickly drowned out by the rest of the comments. A large part of the reason why Father Wang's Weibo post had officially become a trending topic was because of Su K, the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. Most importantly, that message also included the Heavenly Law bounty. After the announcement of the Heavenly Way bounty, it immediately attracted the attention and support of a large number of big shots in the world of cultivators, most of whom were actually friends of Su K, the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. A person with the ID, Evil Monarch Jun Xia, and a verified profile as CEO of Cultivation Hardware and Concealed Weapons Technology reposted Su K's and Father Wang's Weibo posts, and said that he would add an additional 1 million yuan to the Heavenly Way bounty on the leader of the Exploding Sky sect. Evil Monarch Jun Xia, this was the Cultivation Metal Concealed Weapons Technology's boss. It was also the only large corporation that could compete with King Billy's Yadali Treasure Research Bureau in the concealed weapons market. Indeed, due to the participation of the evil monarch Jun Xia, the topic had once again exploded. In the short 2 hours after Father Wang posted on Weibo, the topic, Wang Situ in a fury for a beauty, soared like a rocket, and had already been read more than 100 million times. It was just like how Wang Ling's realm had automatically improved over the past 2 years. In his long Weibo post, Father Wang had clearly said that he had called the police, but unfortunately for various reasons, the cultivation police had been unable to handle the case. This also caused dissatisfaction among the people. If an official doesn't make decisions for the people, he might as well go home and sell sweet potatoes. The matter of taking advantage of someone was neither a big deal nor a small one. The point was that after Father Wang used Wang Situ's identity to expose this matter online, its social significance was clearly different. For a moment, many people on Weibo started to reprimand the cultivation police for their inaction after receiving the call. Soon, this matter alerted the Municipal Public Security Bureau. In the middle of the night, Song Ching-shu was writing a post-war losses review report with a bitter and hateful expression. This time, not only had 2 of the 10 saints died, even the 3rd saint had betrayed the castle master for some unknown reason. Until now, Song Ching-shu was still in the dark. However, the report still had to be written. What had been lost, what was the next step of the plan, and what was the success rate? All of these had to be calculated step by step. The only good news for Song Ching-shu now was that the lord of the castle had not really lost his temper. Song Ching-shu felt that given the lord's eyes and ears, he probably already knew that the people who insisted on competing with Mo Immortal Castle for the stone ghost mask had some background and weren't to be trifled with. If the other party was just Great Death Courting Senior, it would be fine. But the problem now was that behind Great Death Courting Senior stood a top expert whose realm was far beyond the soul formation stage. Who could this person be? Song Ching-shu had no way of knowing. Right now, the only clue they had was the 3rd saint, whom they had completely lost contact with. All these mysteries could only be solved after they found the 3rd saint, Song Ching-shu sighed. Pen in hand, he was pondering the wording of the review report when his phone rang. This red phone was an internal hotline that could be used directly to reach him. Song Ching-shu looked at the time a little irritably. Who would be looking for him at this hour? After pondering for a moment, he directly picked up the phone. Who is this? Hello, is this Brother Song? I'm Zhou Jia. Song Ching-shu was blank for a moment. He knew too many people, so many that he couldn't remember them all at all. Originally, when he went to work, there was a phone book in his office which was full of numbers, and he could casually flip through it to find out who it was. But the problem was that he was at home now. Facing a person calling him out of the blue and calling him XXX, Song Ching-shu felt a little tired. He knew a lot of people with the surname Zhou. Who the hell would know which Zhou Jia it was? Fortunately, the person on the other end of the line was quite self-aware. I'm Zhou Jia from Green Gang, the one with the big nostrils. Oh, so it was Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang. Song Ching-shu instantly knew who it was. He was a famous bull-nosed gangster with big nostrils, and was nicknamed Big Nostril. Actually, as long as he said his nickname, Song Ching-shu would immediately know who it was. What can I do for you, gang leader Zhou? Song Ching-shu asked. Green Gang was the largest underground gang in Songhai City. When Mo Immortal Castle had first been founded, it had had a close relationship with Green Gang. Before they had set up their own intelligence network, a lot of information had to be obtained through Green Gang. Over the years, the relationship between Mo Immortal Castle and Green Gang had faded, and they only had some business dealings. Thus, Song Ching-shu hadn't expected the leader of Green Gang, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, to suddenly call him. Brother Song, I really don't know who to call. There's something that's a little troublesome right now. I don't know if you've heard, it's something new on Weibo. Zhou Jia spoke anxiously for a long time, but Song Ching-shu laughed first. Wang Situ is angry because of a woman. Is this a new meme? I seem to have read that online author's book. You mean, his wife was molested? Ha 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 ha. On the other end of the line, the face of Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, instantly darkened. The person who molested his wife was my cousin. Song Ching-shu's laughter abruptly stopped. Zhou Jia sighed. It seems that Brother Song still doesn't know about this. But this matter has blown up, it's quite troublesome. Listening to Zhou Jia's explanation, the smile on Song Ching-shu's face gradually disappeared, and he no longer treated this matter as a joke. You mean, the leader of Exploding Sky Sect, Su Ke, publicly announced the Heavenly Dao bounty on Weibo and received the support of countless cultivators? Even that evil monarch Jun Xia increased the bounty. Hearing this, Song Qingshu couldn't help sighing inwardly. This matter was really troublesome. Was a Heavenly Dao bounty something an ordinary person could issue? The person who was qualified to issue a Heavenly Dao bounty was either the Pope or the head of a sect. Even if it could be revoked, it couldn't be done at will. The most important thing was that the leader of Exploding Sky sect, Su Ke, was famous for being ruthless. He was an existence that even Mo Immortal Castle didn't dare provoke. Song Qingshu, I say, gang leader Zhou, your cousin could have molested anyone, but he had to molest the wife of this internet guru. Zhou Jia, brother Song, I can only look for you. I only have this one cousin, think of a way to help me suppress this matter. Song Qingshu was directly speechless. Do you know how scary Guru Wang Situ's fans are? The leader of Exploding Sky sect only knows how to use Weibo. Those big shots who don't use Weibo are probably observing him in private. Song Qingshu felt that he wasn't exaggerating to scare people. After all, even the lord of the castle had read Let Go of That Wet Nurse written by Wang Situ. However, the lord of the castle didn't use Weibo. On the other end of the line, Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, gritted his teeth. How about this, brother Song? If you can help me suppress this matter, I'll tell you something that will raise your spirits. Song Qingshu thought for a moment, then shook his head. It'll be difficult. Just as he was about to hang up, Zhou Jia, the leader of Green Gang, said directly, I know that brother Song has been looking for the whereabouts of the maker of the stone ghost mask. I have a clue here. If brother Song can help me, I'll tell you everything. Chapter 128. When Mo Immortal Castle had first been established back then, it had relied on Green Gang to build its own intelligence network in Songhai City for a long time. Over the years, Green Gang's value in Mo Immortal Castle's eyes had weakened, and their relationship wasn't as close as before. Between the forces, there was originally a layer of mutual benefit relationship. Once this layer of mutual benefit balance was broken, the relationship would drift apart. As the leader of Green Gang, Zhou Jia was naturally well aware of this. Thus, out of consideration for Green Gang's future development, Zhou Jia had been quietly expanding his own intelligence network over the years in an attempt to secure the throne of Songhai City's #1 underground intelligence network. But Mo Immortal Castle's development had been too rapid in recent years. However, even if he couldn't win on paper, Zhou Jia had still found another way. He had inadvertently asked around about the stone ghost mask. He also knew that Mo Immortal Castle had been looking for the maker of the stone ghost mask for many years. Song Qingshu subconsciously swallowed, because this condition indeed sounded very tempting. On the other end of the line, Zhou Jia knew he had a chance, and hurriedly continued to say with a flattering smile, Brother Song, you just need to think of a way to control public opinion and suppress Weibo. I only have this one cousin, so I have to protect him no matter what. Song Qingshu sighed. I admit that your condition is very tempting. But you should know that the head of Exploding Sky sect has already made a move. Even if my Mo Immortal Castle intervenes. Zhou Jia interrupted him. Brother Song, I can only rely on you in this matter. Just try to reduce the impact of this incident as much as possible. Of course, whether we win or lose in the end, I will tell you everything I know about the maker of the stone ghost mask. This was quite sensible, and Song Qingshu finally nodded in satisfaction. Very well, I'll try my best. After saying that, Song Qingshu closed the phone, and then fell into a dilemma again. Who on earth should he look for? Song Qingshu thought for a while, then finally picked up his phone again and quickly dialed a number. It's me, I'm Song Qingshu. Help me answer Mayor Ding's call. Mohawk Head's cousin, the leader of Green Gang, had just called Song Ching-shu for help when the battle on Weibo continued. It had been 4 hours since the incident, and it was almost 12 o'clock, but Weibo was still as lively as it was during the day. As the incident continued to be published, Father Wang's trending Weibo post, Wang Situ in a rage for a beauty, had already been marked with the word, explode, when a weak woman encountered a lecher. How to respond and how to guard against it became a hot topic online. The netizens were reposting and expressing their support. Even the keyboard warriors were staying up all night. As long as they could find a sense of existence in the crowd, they would feel extremely satisfied. But soon, someone posted a message online, along with a series of angry emojis. Strange. The Weibo post that I just commented on disappeared. Even the views on the upper right corner of the Weibo posts that I posted before have turned gray. The netizen took a screenshot to express his dissatisfaction. Soon, someone commented, I thought I was the only one whose Weibo post was locked. So there are other people. F***CK. I found allies. I'm not alone. Why did you lock my Weibo after painstakingly typing such a long post? I support Guru Wang Situ. This definitely wasn't the netizens making a fuss out of boredom, because Father Wang had also noticed that the number of likes and comments on his post was continuously decreasing. After 4 hours of accumulating likes, it had clearly been close to 200,000, but when it refreshed just now, there were only 110,000 left. Half of it had been deducted. Wang Ling also noticed that a lot of the online comments had disappeared. There had been some people who had previously sent out human addresses. These addresses had yet to be verified, but they had all been directly deleted by Weibo on the grounds that they were prohibited information. It was very obvious that someone was deliberately blocking the news in order to reduce the number of trending searches. Father Wang waited patiently in front of the computer for 15 minutes, and noticed that the word, explode, next to the trending searches had already disappeared. Even his ranking had dropped 2 ranks in a row, and he could only watch helplessly as it dropped from first to third. In the study, Father Wang sat in front of the computer screen, and the ashtray on his desk was already full of cigarette butts. He had already smoked all the cigarettes in the pack. Wang Ling was wondering if he should use his teleportation ability to help Father Wang buy a pack from the supermarket. After all, this was the only thing he could do for his dad before Father Wang relied on his own abilities to find that Mohawk scum. But very quickly, Wang Ling realized that he had been thinking too much, because he saw Father Wang get up and directly take down an iron box from the bookcase on the side. Inside were 10 black cigars neatly arranged. Father Wang directly lit one and put it in his mouth. Wang Ling's heart couldn't help trembling again. He was stunned to realize that Father Wang's dark state was getting worse and worse. In the study, Father Wang puffed on the cigar. Staring at the cigars, Wang Ling slowly remembered that this box of Father Wang's cigars had been a gift from a fan a few months ago. When he had signed for the express delivery, Father Wang had still been typing in the study, and it had been Wang Ling who had come downstairs to sign for him, so he still had a vague impression of it. But at that time, Wang Ling hadn't paid much attention to what on earth was inside the box. After receiving the iron box, Father Wang had put it away on the bookshelf without touching it. Judging from the packaging alone, these cigars didn't seem to be very expensive, but the material inside each cigar was extremely special. Through his heavenly eye, Wang Ling could see that this single cigar contained more than 300 precious treasures of heaven and earth. Among all these treasures of heaven and earth, Wang Ling could actually detect a hint of auspicious dragon grass from afar. This was a spirit medicine that had been cultivated in Huaxiu Nation, and had the ability to revive the dead. It was currently a special medicine used in the world to treat cancer. Just a little bit of it was enough to purify all the cancer cells in the body. It was very obvious that this fan had specially made these cigars. To actually use auspicious dragon grass to make cigars, who on earth was this person? While Wang Ling was still puzzled, Father Wang had already smoked half of his cigar. As Father Wang had expected, someone was now doing everything they could to block news on Weibo. Just now, the topic, Wang Situ in a fury for a beauty, had dropped several places, and was about to drop out of the top 10. Everyone, repost it again. Help Guru Wang Situ. It's dropped again. This Weibo is really trash. It's a shady operation. It's really shameless. I'll repost it. I'll repost it. I'll repost it again. I don't believe it can keep dropping. Almost 500,000 reposts. It's been stolen by a shampoo ad that popped up out of nowhere. Who on earth gave you the confidence? Piamu. Netizens all felt that it was unfair for Father Wang, but there was nothing anyone could do when it was obvious that someone was manipulating things from behind the scenes. Looking at these online comments, Father Wang felt his temper flare up. Manipulating things from behind the scenes. No way. Wang Ling saw Father Wang turn the iron box that contained the cigars upside down and open the lid. Wang Ling's eyebrows twitched. This cigar box actually had 2 openings, and there was a small layer on the back. Right after that, Wang Ling saw Father Wang take out a black cell phone that he had never seen before from the back of the cigar box. There was only one phone number in the contact list on the phone. Without thinking, Father Wang directly dialed it. Chapter 129. At 12:00 in the evening, it was already deep into the night. Mayor Ding Yunsong, who lived on the top floor of a staff apartment in the municipal government office in central Shanghai City, was wearing a nightgown as he studied a foreign language with a blonde foreign Lolita. At that moment, however, he suddenly received an urgent call. Mayor Ding was clearly a little unhappy that his mood had been disturbed. When he picked up the phone, his tone was gloomy. Who is this? The person on the other end of the line only said 3 words, Song Qingshu. As soon as he heard these 3 words, Mayor Ding suddenly shuddered, and he immediately perked up and smiled obsequiously. So it's Mr. Song. Mr. Song, why are you looking for me so late at night? Mayor Ding, you already know about what happened on Weibo, right? That Wang Situ's wife was groped by someone, and the whole city is in an uproar. Song Qingshu didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Ding Yunsong nodded in all apparent seriousness. Of course I know about this. What he actually didn't know was that he was still busy learning a foreign language at this time, and had no time to pay attention to what was going on Weibo. The person who groped her is one of my little brothers. He drank 2 bottles of erguotu that day, and his mind was a little muddled. It was actually all a misunderstanding, Song Qingshu said. I understand what Mr. Song means, but there has to be a process for dealing with the aftermath, Song Qingshu nodded. I also understand what you mean. Within half an hour after this call, 3 million yuan will be transferred to your foreign account, and you'll be responsible for dealing with the aftermath. As for Wang Situ's family, you'll also have to pay them to keep their mouths shut. This will prevent them from spouting nonsense. Both of them were experienced people, and with just a few words, they immediately understood the meaning of this call. As the mayor of Shanghai City, Ding Yunsong addressed Song Qingshu as Mr. Song. Anyone with a discerning eye could see the stakes in this. Ding Yunsong was well aware that if Mo Immortal Castle hadn't supported him back then, he wouldn't even have had the chance to sit in this position. Ding Yunsong was silent for a while, and finally nodded. Don't worry, Mr. Song. By midnight, I guarantee that the popularity of this Weibo post will no longer appear in the eyes of the public. After the short call, Ding Yunsong made a few more calls. The CEO of Weibo, the technical department manager of the municipal government office. Ding Yunsong called everyone who was related to this matter and could suppress the influence of public opinion one by one to express his condolences. It was not Ding Yunsong's first time controlling the power of public opinion. The first time he did it, he didn't know who to look for, but now he was familiar with it. After making dozens of calls in a row, Ding Yunsong stretched and looked at his watch. It was already 2 in the morning. The little four in lowly and lace suspenders was already asleep. At this moment, Ding Yunsong had lost all interest. Let's rest early tonight. Ding Yunsong sighed and gently walked to the little lowly's side and tucked her in. Just as he was about to kiss the little lowly's forehead, his goddamn phone rang again. This time, Ding Yunsong was really a little impatient. Damn it, can't you just let me study my foreign language properly? Mayor Ding picked up the phone angrily. I'm Ding Yunsong. It's already so late, can't you report it tomorrow? On the other end of the line, the girl operator with the pleasant voice also looked helpless after being scolded. Mayor Ding, don't be angry, this is the Discipline Inspection Department. The Discipline Inspection Department? Then hurry up and put it through. For some reason, Ding Yunsong had a bad premonition in his heart. The officer from the Discipline Inspection Department only said a few words, and Ding Yunsong's drowsiness instantly disappeared, and his face turned pale. The higher-ups have instructed us to thoroughly investigate the case of Internet guru Wang Situ in order to make an example out of him. This is just a web novelist. Is there a need to take it so seriously? Yes, Mayor Ding. Do you think I sound like I'm joking? You haven't seen Weibo, have you? The highest cultivation court and the cultivation procuratorate have already made it clear that they will legislate specifically against the bad behavior of groping in society. The higher-ups have expressed that they will pay serious attention to this matter. Ding Yunsong couldn't stop cold sweat from flowing down his face. The higher-ups. Which higher-ups? Which higher-ups could trigger the highest cultivation court and the cultivation procuratorate? Legislation was such a big matter, and it was decided just like that. This was clearly such a small matter, how could it cause such a big wave? Ding Yunsong listened to the phone, a little dazed. From this call from the Discipline Inspection Department, Ding Yunsong already knew that this matter was no longer something he could control. Song Qingshu had indeed found him, but it was obvious that the other party was also looking for someone, and had found a big shot that he couldn't shake. At that moment, Ding Yunsong felt like he had to suffer in silence. He didn't even dare to hang up the phone, because he was almost certain that the higher-ups of the other departments were already in a mess. They were waiting for his latest instructions. Because the instructions issued by the higher-ups and the phone call he had made earlier were two completely different things. Licking his dry lips, Ding Yunsong's forehead was already dripping with sweat. Less than 10 seconds after the call from the Discipline Inspection Department ended, Ding Yunsong's phone rang again. This time, Ding Yunsong took a look at the caller ID and was so scared that he almost peed his pants. It was actually Secretary Shaw, the secretary of the Municipal Party Committee. As soon as he picked up the call, he heard a magnetic and serious voice on the other end of the line, just as he had expected. Comrade Ding Yunsong, what kind of mayor are you? Did you ask you to suppress public opinion? The higher-ups haven't given any instructions yet, but you're already one step ahead of them. Did you accept someone else's red packet to do something? Comrade Ding Yunsong, I solemnly warn you, don't think about stirring up trouble all day. Have you watched that TV series In the Name of Cultivation? I think that the mayor who slipped out of the country in the first 2 episodes is a lot like you. Ding Yunsong was already too scared to speak. Whether or not you can keep your position as mayor depends entirely on your attitude towards this matter, understand? Speaking up to this point, Secretary Shaw's voice suddenly sank a lot. This matter, the old leader is very angry. He got up in the middle of the night and flew into a rage. He said that the atmosphere in our Songhai city is so chaotic that we can't even hear the voices of the people. He wants to thoroughly investigate the corrupt practices of city officials. Next week, fellow cultivators from the Central Cultivation Anti-Corruption Inspection Team will come to our city for an inspection. Hearing this, Ding Yunsong trembled all over. Excuse me, Secretary Shaw, which old leader is this? Mayor Ding, are you playing dumb with me? You should have already guessed it, right? The 10 founding generals were all his students. Which old leader do you think he is? Chapter 130. It was destined to be a restless day. In the wee hours of the morning, Song Qingshu received a text message from Ding Yunsong. Summarizing the message, it meant that the matter had blown up and attracted the attention of national leaders and big shots from all walks of life, and it was impossible to rely on the power of a mayor alone to suppress it. When he saw this message, Song Qingshu's eyelids couldn't help twitching. Why did he have to run into big shots who couldn't be provoked recently? There was the mysterious youngster who had appeared in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa before, and now there was this inexplicable internet guru author Wang Situ. Song Qingshu had never felt so aggrieved before. While he was feeling gloomy, Song Qingshu's wristwatch rang. Brother Song, it's Shou Qing. I saw that Weibo's popularity had clearly dropped, and it hasn't even been 2 hours. Why is it back up again? Did something happen? Zhou Qing, the leader of the Green Gang, sounded a little anxious. Song Qingshu rubbed the space between his eyebrows a little irritably. I can't do anything about it. That Wang Situ's background is a little beyond my expectations. Even our MO Immortal Castle can't touch him. How could this be? Zhou Qing was also stupefied. After a moment of silence, Song Qingshu said, My suggestion now is to hurry up and arrange for your cousin to go abroad and lie low for a while. It's best if he doesn't come back for at least half a year. Is the situation that serious? Song Qingshu sighed. You can weigh it up. All I can tell you is that this matter has already alarmed the 10 founding generals of Huaxiu Nation. Zhou Qing kept quiet out of fear. What on earth was the background of someone who could reach the 10 founding generals? It was 6:00 in the morning on May 27th, Shanghai Dahuang International Airport. A man with a mohawk's hairstyle and a mask timidly arrived at the airport terminal with a black briefcase in his arms. He spoke on the phone in a low voice. Hello, brother, I'm already at the airport. Zhou Qing's voice came from the other end of the line. Zhou Wei, I've already arranged everything for you. I bought the earliest ticket for you at 6:20. Take the green channel 10 minutes early, no matter who talks to you, ignore them, understand? Get on the plane first. Okay brother, I understand. Zhou Wei's face was covered in cold sweat as he hung up the phone. At the same time, he was filled with regret. He really wanted to chop off his hand. Why couldn't he control himself back then? Zhou Wei tightened his cap, took out a pair of sunglasses from his lapel, and put them on, fully armed. And at this moment, he suddenly felt a chill behind him, as if someone was staring at him. Zhou Wei subconsciously turned around and found that there was a black cat looking at him from under the seat at the back of the terminal. So it was a cat. Zhou Wei was relieved. These days, it was not strange for pets to appear in the airport, and many pets were spiritual pets with spiritual intelligence. As long as the owner bought the ticket, they could board the plane by themselves. Some spiritual pets with spiritual intelligence comparable to humans could even buy their own tickets to travel abroad. Zhou Wei felt that this ordinary-looking black cat was probably someone's pet, waiting for its owner under the chair. However, Zhou Wei still felt a little weird being stared at by a cat. He immediately got up and sat down where he couldn't see the black cat. As soon as Zhou Wei left, the black cat under the chair actually stretched out its hand to fold its ear, which was actually hiding a pair of wireless earphones. The black cat kept its cool and said in a low voice, "Attention, battalion commanders, target detected." Monk, how's the situation on your side? Monk, reporting, Commander. Everything is going smoothly. Zheng Tan nodded. Good, the other teams continue to keep an eye on him. Monk, hurry up and bring him here. We must intercept this guy before he boards the plane. Zhou Wei didn't know if it was because he had done something wrong that had made him overly sensitive. There were clearly 10 minutes left before he could board the plane through the Green Channel, but at that moment, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles as he sat in the terminal. There were only a few scattered guests in the terminal at 6:00. Zhou Qing had specially arranged for Zhou Wei to sit in the VIP terminal, which was even more sparsely populated. However, Zhou Wei always felt that there were countless pairs of eyes looking at him. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw an airport ground crew cleaning with a vacuum cleaner a dozen or so meters away. It seemed like this person was staring at him. Zhou Wei covered his face with a magazine and snuck a glance. He realized that the ground crew at the airport was actually an old lady. Zhou Wei shrank back in his clothes. For the first time in his 180-meter-tall body, he felt a trace of coldness in his heart. This was just an old lady, and she was so far away from him. Her old eyes were blurry, she probably couldn't see him, could she? Zhou Wei was very nervous. In the end, after struggling for a good while, he decided to change seats and stay further away from this old lady ground crew. As soon as Zhou Wei left, the old lady crouched behind the vacuum cleaner and silently took out a walkie-talkie. All units, attention. The target has moved. This is one of the few large-scale public reports that our General Administration of Harmony has received this year. Everyone, please be on full alert. Old Zhang, how's the situation on your side? Grandpa Zhang, reporting to Miss Dong. Everything is going smoothly. Madame Dong nodded. Good. The rest of you, keep an eye on him. The target will be boarding in 5 minutes. We must stop him before he makes any further moves. Time passed by minute, but Zhou Wei felt that every second felt like a year. Finally, it was time to board the plane. Zhou Wei held his black briefcase and, racing against time, rushed to the airport's green passage almost immediately. He didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. At the entrance of the green passage, a beautiful, brown-haired, long-legged lady stopped Zhou Wei. Sir, the green passage is now open. Please show me your boarding pass and passport. Zhou Wei hurriedly took out the things from his pocket and handed them to the lady. At the same time, his eyes kept looking around nervously. Hello, Mr. Tom Zhou. Welcome aboard. I wish you a pleasant journey. Just as the lady handed the boarding pass and passport to Zhou Wei, almost instantly, 2 large groups of people appeared behind them. It was a group of old men and old women wearing sunglasses and red ribbons tied around their arms. The old lady in the lead was actually the ground crew member who had pushed the vacuum cleaner. What was even more frightening was that there were dozens of cats next to the group of old men and women. A black cat stood at the very front with its arms crossed, staring fixedly at Zhou Wei. And behind this group of black cats stood a fat police officer. Zhou Wei instantly broke out in a cold sweat. It turned out that from that moment on, he had already been monitored. Catch this molesting bastard. Madame Dong pointed at Zhou Wei and shouted. In a short period of time, a large group of cats meowed and a large group of old men and women pounced on Zhou Wei at the same time. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.